Good evening. Welcome to The Mountain in the Valley, a podcast dedicated to bringing dignity back to hard work and telling the stories of those who do. Tonight we have with us Silas, also known as the Healthy Tradesman. He's out in California right now. He travels all over the place. And we're just going to get into where he's from, what he's up to, and yeah, see where it goes. So, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Silas, and let us know, what's going on. We'll kind of go through, ask some questions, but yeah, where, what are you up to, and where'd you come from?
Hey there, everybody. Let's make blue collar healthy again.
There you
Nice
go.
to meet you. My name's Silas. Yeah, I was born in Minnesota. I grew up in a town called Forest Lake, probably like 45 minutes north of Minneapolis, St. Paul. And yeah, typical kind of rural environment up until I was about 12 or 13, then moved to a smaller town, which is Forest Lake, and just lived the Midwestern ideal 90s life. Like that kid, getting in trouble, riding BMX, getting in high school, getting into even more trouble. And yeah, that experience of that kind of rural slash Midwestern cold environment built who I am. But yeah, that's where I'm from, and I owe a lot to that upbringing. I've done so many different things, obviously, with my life now, and I look back fondly on those times. But yeah, that area definitely made me who I am for
Yeah.
sure.
So Midwest, upper North Midwest, cold winters? No.
Hell yeah,
Yeah.
hell yeah,
Long cold
Arctic.
winters, Arctic
Yeah,
style.
yeah,
Oh man.
absolutely.
Ugh. Ugh. Yeah.
Yeah,
I actually rather enjoy the winter, but yeah, it gets long in the tooth there. So
for
growing up,
sure.
you said getting into trouble, whatever. Were you into sports? Were you into skating? Well, you said BMX, but like, what were you into in high school? What was
For
it?
sure.
Your experience?
Yeah, so I tried sports. I'm not a big dude. I'm like 5'7", 170 pounds, soaking wet.
Hmm.
I got into sports when I was younger, did track, did football for a year or two in junior high school. Wasn't any good at it. I was a safety, and then I just was forgotten about. But I was really into winter sports. I was a skier. So I did ski. I skied and I snowboarded, but I got on the ski team at high school, and that was an awesome experience because we got winter for 6 months out of the year, and it was an opportunity to get out of school a little early and then just spend all afternoon on the ski hill. And yeah, that was definitely a formative part of my upbringing. So did some of that. That was my sport, winter stuff. But yeah, obviously I kind of fucked that up too. Like we would use that opportunity to just leave and go smoke weed on the ski lift, and like I was never any good at it, but like it was my opportunity to kind of like get out and do stuff.
Yeah.
But I was an active kid for sure. Like we were outside. It's just pre smartphone, right? Like what do? You get out of school if you're driving, you get in a car and you go do something interesting. And if you're not driving, you're on a bike, you're outside, you're doing something. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That wild, like, you can just go and do anything. Like, well, what are you going to do? Who knows? And there probably wasn't there. I mean, I know growing up, there just wasn't a lot to do, but there was
Nope.
always something to do, like just palling
Yeah.
around, getting out there, like running, yeah, yeah,
Running the town,
yeah,
man, running the town. Like,
yeah.
yeah, I remember being 13, 14, got my first dirt bike. It was a
Sick.
1971 Honda Trail 70. Old as fuck. Like this old ass Trail 70. I was the only kid that had a dirt bike at 13. Like kids that I knew would get like
Right,
real dirt bikes as they were
right.
older, but I got this thing as a hand me down, and I'd put a rope on the back and just have 7 kids behind me just being towed while I'm driving the dirt bike, and we would just run the town. It was wild. It was a fun experience. But yeah, you could do that in the Midwest. Well,
Yeah,
you could back then. Probably can't
yeah.
really do so much of that anymore. But
Well, no, because somebody's going to post it on Snapchat or
oh my
TikTok,
god,
and the cops are going to show it at your house.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, it's
yeah.
the surveillance tool of the future is now.
Right, right. There's no avoiding it.
There is no avoiding it, and I
Yeah,
think kids have to figure that out, and they find a way. My son, he's 13, my daughter, she's 17, and they figured out a way to have fun and get out in the woods and go dirt bike riding, and four wheelers, the whole nine, and it's cool. It's
Awesome.
very cool. Yeah. So, did you get in any official trouble? Were you like in juvie or anything, or you just kind of
Never. So I was a
we're
good
getting in it
lip and
now.
smooth talking. Yeah, let's do it. I always had my way with adults. I guess I should say. Like I was able to narrowly escape my high school experience. Like
Mm,
I was selling
mm.
weed when I was in high school, doing harder drugs too, and yeah, I got busted at school with multiple bags of marijuana and a scale, and I somehow didn't go to
Oh
juvenile
gosh,
detention for that. Yeah,
that's
it was a
surprising. Yeah.
horrible experience.
Again,
Yeah, I mean,
small town,
probation for that.
man. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah, I
kind of you
remember the
have that.
judge like had a nice shirt on, just like yes sir, yes sir, no sir.
Mhm,
Yeah, like I also had like, three times I had a minor consumption already on my record. So I don't know how I escaped, but
mhm.
yes,
Yeah,
I was always like short rehab things that were mandated or
mhm,
probationary type things. So yeah, like if they
yeah.
only knew what I was actually doing, I would have,
Thank goodness
that's
they
just,
didn't.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So
so
it was tough, but fun.
yeah, yeah. Man, it's so funny because people oftentimes are like, "Oh, I can't believe these kids are doing this," or like, "I can't believe." What were you guys doing? Like, did you not grow up the same way? Because
Yeah,
growing up, everybody was doing everything. Like, it wasn't
sure.
like a rare occasion. I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just funny that people get so like taken aback that the kids are doing these things. Like, no, that's kind of what it's been like forever. Um,
Yeah,
Pretty much.
which terrifies me at the same time. Now that I have a son and I'm about to have another kid, it's like,
Oh yeah.
how do we? I want him to have some experiences and to learn
Mhm.
some hard lessons, but he could avoid the entire, 2 decades I spent using marijuana, religiously. I
Mhm.
don't partake anymore. I don't have anything against anyone who does, but it's just there's so much wasted time,
Mhm.
right? Wasted time and brain space like that. I just don't want him to have to experience. And like, I think homeschool is the only way to kind of avoid that, which we're
Uh,
definitely going to do. But
yeah,
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 it's tough.
especially
It's a
when they're
tough
little.
place. Yeah,
Yeah, especially when they're
yeah,
little. Like, I know we homeschooled my daughter until she's in like fourth grade, and my son, and it really set him up for some
that's
amount of
great.
like success, and the flexibility that we had at that time was really cool. But it's
Sure.
not like a one size fits all, and the same thing that's going to allow homeschool to be an effective tool for raising your kids. Like the same skills you need to homeschool and the same things that make homeschool effective, being involved. Like, this is a
Yeah,
job. You got to be there. You got to do it. You can't just sit them in front of a computer and let them go. That same attitude, that same mindset applied to your kid going to public school will net a very similar result. And I've
sure.
seen
Yeah,
that happen. Like, people are like, what's the best kind of school? The one that you care about and are involved in.
yeah.
That's the best
Right.
kind of school.
100%.
Because you have to raise your kids. No, the
Mhm.
state isn't going to do it. They're going to do something, and they'll
They
take
did
some.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, eh, eh,
I look back on that time period. Yeah, I was that sack kid, like the after school parents were working in the big
mhm,
city, like
mhm.
picked me up much later. And then as I got older, I was like, they're not paying for that anymore, and I can make sure I don't kill myself. So
Yeah.
I'm on my own. And we were just
Right.
on our own from dark till dark, all
Hmm.
the way through high school. And
Hmm.
that was a huge contributor, I'm sure. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
this, my
But
parents were great, but yeah,
imagine if you could, like, imagine an environment where like you can do better than your parents did in being involved in your kid's life. Like, take all the
sure.
lessons you've learned and then allow your kids, as Jordan Peterson says, to do dangerous things safely. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, go skiing or go ride motorcycles. It's
Yeah.
going to be awesome. And if you break your arm, I'm not sad about it. I'm not going to freak out.
Yeah.
Have fun,
Just
like,
don't break
yeah,
your neck.
jump off of that roof and, and like allowing your kids to know that no matter what, you can always come home. You don't have to be afraid to come home. And when
Sure.
you start from that kind of a foundation, a lot of the things, and I've just noticed it with my own kids, like they don't want to go and do a bunch of stupid, like, yeah, my son wants to hop on his dirt bike and go forever. He never wants to come home, but he
Yeah.
also isn't interested in doing a lot of the dumb stuff that I did and that
Yeah.
my degenerate friends did, and neither are his friends. Like,
That's
and
great.
same with my daughter. Like, uh, my kids are proof that even good fruit can come from like rotten, messed up foundation.
Right.
Like the
Right.
seed that was planted was pretty messed up, but hey, they
Break
can,
the cycle. Yeah.
even good things can come out of it. And yeah, and breaking the cycles, like what led to where you got to, and
Sure.
think through that, and then think about how you can impact your own kid. And number one, like, end of the story, being honest and consistent, being the same person at home as you are at work, as you are,
Mhm.
like the same person at a parent teacher conference as you are at home. And
Yeah.
if who you are isn't healthy, fixing that. So
Yeah.
if you do fly off the handle and have a terrible temper and yell and scream, that's what your kids are going to catch. You
Sure.
have to
Yeah.
work on that. Like, don't just say, "Oh, you need to be responsible." You actually have to be responsible. Don't say,
Yeah.
"Hey, you need to get up on time." You actually have to get up on time,
Yeah.
and that that kind of consistency, I think, is what really impacts a kid as they grow up. I know
Sure.
for one, having people tell me what to do didn't really help me.
Yeah.
People showing me and actually doing it in front of me. The guys that raised me in the trades, they didn't just say show up for work on time and be responsible. They actually were at
Showed
work
up.
30 minutes early
Yeah.
and we're happy to
Right.
be there. Like,
Yeah.
and we had fun and we
Hmm.
worked our guts out. The guy who owned the company when I was, unloading multiple truckloads of mulch or stone or something like that, when my back was starting to hurt and I was getting to the end of it, he'd hop up in there with me and start
Yeah.
shoveling too, and
Oh
and
yeah.
those kind of lessons, you can't tell a kid that. You got to do it. And so
Yeah.
for your kids, you actually have to be the guy that you
Yeah.
want to be for them.
For
And that's
sure.
hard, dude. That's real hard.
It's hard. You got to do the shadow work before you have kids. Like
Yeah.
that's the real ticket right there. Luckily,
Mhm.
like before we started having children, we waited a while and I developed a lot as a person, like
Mhm.
I didn't drink like I used to. I didn't party like I used to. He
Mhm.
grew up in a CrossFit gym. I coached every night and he was there. I
Mhm.
worked out every day, my wife and I. He'd be
Mhm.
running around in the background and like he'll have that foundation, which is great. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You gotta
Yeah,
gotta be
that's
the
awesome. You,
be
you
the guy.
gotta just, you actually have to be who you want to be, and your kids,
Mhm.
more remarkably, miraculously, will. Yeah, I mean, dude, they can make any decision they want, but when
Sure.
they see their parents caring about each other, when they see their parents respecting each other, when they see their parents working hard and having fun and being healthy,
Yeah.
they like look around and like, bro, this is totally normal. And they look around at the other people in their life and other parents that are their friends' parents, whatever, and they're like, ooh, that's not as cool. That isn't as fun
Yeah.
as my
Yeah.
dad is. Like,
Right.
and hey, we
Yeah.
make mistakes and that's all. It's all good. It's all good. They're very resilient. We made it. I
Yeah.
always,
We made we
yeah.
did it.
Some of my
I
friends,
mean,
they're like, yeah,
no, like thanks to the trades, like you were talking about offline, like yeah, trades saved my life too, for sure.
yeah.
100%,
Well, how did you go from like pot smoking ski bum to Like how did you get introduced to the trades? What, like, were your parents in the trades? Did they want
No,
you to go to
no.
college? Like, what was that all as you get through with high school?
So yeah, they would have liked that I went to college. I was actually I did pretty well, like ninth, 10th grade. I was that AP, science math kid. And then, typical wrong crowd story, fell in with some older kids and just all went downhill. And bad grades by the time I graduated, and I didn't have a plan. And the
Mm,
plan was like I graduated by the skin of my teeth. Luckily, I had enough like whatever credits were back in high school where I had OJT, so I could go work at a gas station the second half of my entire senior year, which was
mm,
cool. So like
mm-hmm.
that was bad too. Like obviously horrible influences at working at fucking gas stations. But yeah, so like I didn't have a plan. And it all kind of came to a head towards graduation. It's like, what are you gonna do? And it was community college and the same people. And I, had a drug habit. It wasn't like
Mm,
shooting heroin or anything, but I just wasn't taking care of myself. And then I had a cousin who was in the army, and he got out while he was living on Oahu. And he said, I don't even know him. He's like 9 years older than me. I barely knew this guy. And he said to me, um, why don't you come out here? Why don't you come out here and be with me? And I was like, what? He's like, yeah,
in Hawaii?
in Hawaii.
Oh,
Yeah,
right
I knew he
on.
was there. Yeah, I knew he was there. Like I never considered it ever. And he talked to my mom. He's like, yeah, Silas is fucking up. Send him out here. Like I think he values family a lot, which I learned. He's one of my best friends now, but he was like, I don't know this kid. I know he's fucking up. I can probably relate to him. He grew up in Minnesota too. He's like, get him out
Mm,
here. I'll whip him into shape or whatever. And he fucking did. Like I moved to Hawaii a week after high school graduation, like still in my like preppy biggest flirt in the yearbook, Abercrombie and Fitch looking dumbass self, like showed up to this island paradise without a clue. Like I had no idea what was coming, and it was great. And that's how I started. Like what I literally started doing is he was working for a military construction company doing metal framing on bases, right? And he
okay.
dropped me like boom, Davis Bacon. Back then it was like $48 an hour. This was in 2005. Now it's like $80 an hour or whatever out in Hawaii. But it was like make it or break it. Here's a screw gun. Like you're only 150 pounds. Like let's figure this out. And he was not a patient person, and that's fine.
Mm,
He's had children and he's become better, but he was he's that quintessential fucking hard ass. And I
there you
got
go.
fired right away, like 2 weeks in. Like, nah, got to
Oh,
get this kid. Yeah, yeah. So
oh,
no
this is like a
job in
Cinderella
Hawaii.
story.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything was
The
perfect.
comeback, man. The
Yeah,
comeback, though. So yeah.
yeah.
So lost that job. There was still work to do. I was living with him. There was no hard feelings, but it was like you're obviously not ready. I worked with a friend's dad one summer picking up trash on like a custom homes, job
Oh,
site.
yeah.
That was
I
my
mean, you were
only
green as
experience.
could be.
Green. My parents weren't.
Yeah.
My dad, he was a pile driver, and he didn't really talk about work much. And
Mm,
then my parents got divorced when I was like 12, and she was, management, worked for the city, and like just white collar as can be.
yeah.
So I just didn't really have that influence. But yeah, once I got to Hawaii and it was, sink or swim, I couldn't really go back. I think I could have gone back, but there was no like option. So I started working for a landscaping company and like really like learned labor, hot
Mm,
labor, hot sun, cold beer, like just labor, like fucking labor. It was gnarly and awesome. But I did that for a year, and then I got a job as an apprentice for a custom home builder on the North Shore of Oahu, and I did that for
oh,
like 4 years. And that was where I really like learned the trade. I had a journeyman who was pretty cool, not cool at first, much cooler later, but like,
I
journeyman. And
know
then,
that one.
right.
Yeah.
The owner was this eccentric dude who like loved Japanese culture. He was a crazy white guy with like samurai swords, and like it was just weird. Like I didn't know what I was getting into, but I knew that like I had a place to go and I was learning a trade, and that was great. Like I just busted my ass, and like learned that hard work works first through like sweating in the hot sun doing landscaping, but then like, there are tools and there are skills and there is acquisition of those skills, and
Mhm.
those that skill acquisition can take you somewhere, and like, there's levels to this game, and it was great. So that was my beginning. I did that, and then after about 3.5, 4 years of that, I joined the union, was able to kind of use my previous hours to get ahead. It started as a 70% apprentice with the union and went and did military construction. And then I did that for
Okay.
a decade.
Is the union
So
in Hawaii, is it a strong union, or is it like what's the
the,
union culture like in Hawaii that you experienced?
Sure. I mean, we're there. I don't live there anymore, but it's the bluest state in the union. The bluest state in America, basically. So
Yeah,
they're all just hardline Democratic voting. Unions are strong. Like everything, like union, like
interesting.
that's where the good work was, right? The
Mm,
good jobs were with the union. Or you could choose a Davis Bacon package, but like for young guys who were learning, there was no pathway. Like you could claim you were a journeyman and then they would just eat you alive if you try to just get on a crew without
mm,
experience trying to get that Davis Bacon money. Like the pathway was through the union. We went to school. I did all 4 years of school with the union, and yeah, there was pay scales, and just it brought you correctly into that journeyhood, if you will. So yeah, I had a
yeah.
good experience. Like I mean, ignorance is bliss, but the money was great. The benefits were fucking awesome. Like
Mhm.
there was no problems, and there was work. There's lots of work, and if you worked hard, then there was lots more work, and it was really
Right,
cool.
right.
Yeah,
That's a good union experience. Not everybody has one, and like
sure.
uh, uh, I have had probably more negative experiences union than positive. But I grew up in New Jersey, and New Jersey is like a weird, hardcore, like East Coast closed union kind of system.
Like
It's
hard to
it's
get in,
yes, and also hardcore, like we'll burn your truck in the street if you're a scab. Like
mafia shit.
hardcore. I mean, I don't want to say much about it other than like there's a lot of good dudes that work in the union, and everywhere there's unions. There's a lot of good
Yeah,
dudes.
yeah.
There can be a protectionist type of mindset, I think, where
Mhm.
people are rewarded not for their hard work, but they're rewarded for the time that they put into it. And if you're going to protect all of us, you kind of have to also protect that lower 10% of guys. Now, again, that is not like a weird, like, I don't like unions. I
Sure.
just had lots of weird experiences with unions. And I like to
Yeah.
get other perspectives because I know my experience was a little bit unique. I had an uncle that I barely knew, but he was like a second generation iron worker. And I know my
Mhm.
dad, who I didn't at the time when I grew up, I didn't really know not really, I didn't know my dad and I didn't know what he did, but it turns out that he was uh, a steel fabricator, draftsman, owned a steel erection company, and then eventually went to work for one of the largest non-union steel erection contractors in North Jersey. Like they're banned from working in New York City because they're not union. Like, and so and I didn't know
Yeah.
any of this. Like, what do I know? And so, like I said, I just like to get the
Sure.
all the perspectives because I
When you say
appreciate.
that lower 10%, do you mean like there were guys that weren't pulling and they would just be protected? Or
Yeah, just
yeah,
that whole
that's interesting because I hear that. I get that, like see that vibe even on Instagram, like union dudes like just sitting around. Like that was
mhm,
not my experience. They'll fucking
exactly.
just chew you up immediately. Like, and I think
Yep,
maybe it has to do like this is just an assumption, but like carpentry in general, like there is no there's piece prices and objectives. There's no like sitting around as like compared to I don't want to call any other union out, but laborers or operators, like there's downtime in some of these other trades,
Mhm.
like iron workers, carpenters, like there's no like you can't hide. There's nowhere to
Mm-mm.
go. There's nothing like
Yeah.
you better hurry the fuck up.
Yeah, you
So
better
that
get
that was
after
my
it. Yeah,
experience. Like, right.
yeah.
There
And
was
I
no
think some of the
protection.
yeah,
Yeah.
some of the union experience is that I've been around that were, like, on that negative side were in more, like, manufacturing, like tin
Yeah.
knockers,
Yeah.
you know, uh, where it really is, like, if you sweep the floor, every day you sweep the floor, you're getting every year you get a raise for sweeping the same floor. And,
Right.
and that's
Yeah.
again, like, eh, you know, where I live currently in Pennsylvania, unions are not like, there's a lot of my buddies are like linemen, so they're union. Prison guards, they're union. Electricians around
Yeah.
here, there's a lot of IBW. Like the IBW in my area is strong, is good. It's good and strong.
Sure.
There's just like a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
that around, and those are some good dudes. But then there's also like sheet metal guys, and like they're all fine, and the good guys are
Yeah.
really good. Um, but
Mhm.
again, like there is that opportunity in there to hide in some of these unions. Not being a lineman, you can't really hide
Yeah.
doing that. Like being an iron worker, you can't really hide. You can either climb or you can't. You can either hang steel or
Yeah.
you can't.
Right.
But then when
Right.
you get in
Yeah.
operators, operator and equipment operators union, like there are certain trades just in general. Like I could never, I'll say it this way. I could never be a crane operator.
Yeah.
I don't care how
Sorry,
much they
my
get paid.
turn.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
no, that's good. I don't care how much they get paid. I cannot sit in that crane all day waiting. Like, that's just
Right.
not me.
Right.
So if you have a
Yeah.
union full of people who are sitting in a crane, it's not bad. The union's bad. It's not those guys are bad. They're doing their
Yeah.
job, but that's just not
Yeah.
my speed.
It's part of
Uh,
the job. Yeah.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
and again, like, I'm around crane operators pretty much, all year. And some of them are awesome. Some of them are scary.
Right.
Some of them are real
Right.
lazy, just like everybody else. So it has less to do
Sure.
with the quote union and more to do with the person, you know.
Yeah. For
And
sure.
it's something also that, like, for me as an independent owner operator, uh, business owner, I wear all the hats and I always have, and there's no division of labor in my world. Like if I
Right.
gotta hop in and do concrete forms to move this job along, guess what I'm gonna hop in and do? Concrete
Concrete forms to
form.
move the job along.
Like, if you're cool, like, they ask, "Can you finish concrete?" Yes, I can finish concrete. Give me a trowel. Like, let's
Yeah.
go. I'm gonna help. Am I the best flat work guy in the world? No. Oh my god, goodness, no, I'm not that guy. But you give me a trowel, I'm gonna get after it with you no matter what. And I'm also
Yeah.
gonna put this invoice in,
For
and
sure.
I'm gonna make a
Yeah.
sales call. And so, like,
Yeah.
the idea of
Clean out the
dividing
back of
labor.
your truck.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
I'm gonna clean the bathrooms. Somebody, like, kinda
Yeah.
made fun of me. They're like, "Well, what, would you clean the bathrooms if they asked you to?" Yeah, I would,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
do. Like, I'll pick up all the
Ah,
garbage on this job. I don't even care. If that's what needs to be
yeah.
done, we're gonna do it. And so, that whole division of labor of, like, there's a business out there. I don't know if you ever heard of this business. It's called, and it's like a trade. It's called being a lumper. Have you ever heard
Nuh-uh.
of a lumper before?
No.
Okay.
Interesting. Love the
So a
name.
lumper, oh yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it is what it is. So you have a truck driven by a teamster. Teamsters are a powerful union, right? They back up
Yeah.
to a loading dock. They back up their truck to a loading dock. The guy's a driver. You have a union shop that is going to move that stuff. How do you get it out of the truck and into the warehouse? Who unloads it?
You're fucking kidding me.
A lumper.
The
A
lumper.
lumper undoes it. They're not union guy. I mean, I guess some of them could be union, whatever. And I might be somebody's going to be like, "That's not how it works." Okay, my buddy has a company.
Whatever.
He's a lumper. They call
Yeah.
him to unload trucks
That's
out of a union
wild. He's a
truck into
pallet
a
jack
union shop.
specialist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they go in and they hustle. They bust their butt and they
Yeah.
kill it and they unload hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trucks. And that's
Wow.
the consequence of, like, dividing labor so far out that, like, hey,
Sure.
I need to plug my welder into the wall, into this outlet. No, you can't. Why
The
not? Because
electrician's got
that's
to do
taking
it.
work from electricians. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess technically, but they're busy. I could just plug it in. Is that cool? And so anyway, I don't want to go down that road too far because it will, like, at the end of the day, it's the man doing the job that makes it. It has nothing to do with the structure they're in. And if
Yeah.
what you need to do is what you need to do. And any person who's good at their trade, whether they're union or not, is going to make it. And I got a lot
Yeah.
of respect for that.
For
100%
sure.
respect.
Yeah.
And thanks for the weekend, unions. Thanks for paid holidays. Appreciate
we, we appreciate you.
it. We appreciate you
Yeah.
guys back in the 1800s. So
Sure.
so anyway, you're into commercial carpentry or residential carpentry in Hawaii,
So
or
started out custom home, so that was
that
residential,
was
and then
residential? Yeah.
yeah, joined the union and immediately commercial. It was all well, still residential, but it was steel framing homes
Mm.
for military bases. So I worked all throughout Oahu, Army, Navy, Air Force, just building homes for them. I was
So they're
specifically on a
still
floor
just
crew.
building
Yeah.
and building and building. Like
25-year
they didn't
contracts.
build
There
enough.
is a neighborhood. Yeah, there's a neighborhood right now that's probably at like year 24, and they're already planning on how they're going to demolish it, and then they already have the guys or the contracts for us to come back in for them to come back in and rebuild. So it's a beautiful cycle in Hawaii. It's just
Interesting.
yeah. And there's
That's
a
so
ton, I mean, it's a
interesting.
huge military state. So there's tons of housing. Like half of the cities are military bases with housing for these families. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's like constantly a cycle. It's kind of boom and bust. Like there'll be a lap where like 5-year gap goes and there's no military construction,
Hmm.
right? So there's other stuff going on too. There's high rises, of course, on Oahu, and then
Sure.
this rail system that's a decade and $7 billion later that's still not done. So there's that. There's
The
work.
government doing a good job.
Yeah, government doing
Yeah.
exactly what the government does.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
commercial stuff, and it was great. Metal framing is interesting. It I guess if I would think about like what I'm good at, I would consider myself a metal framer because I did more of that. But then post that work, I've done all kinds of stuff. I've done more custom framing after that. So a lot of houses, like finish work, restaurants. I've had an eclectic experience, which is great. I'm super
yeah.
blessed that I've done a lot of stuff. Like my weakness is stacking and cutting roofs. I'm just not good at it. But like that's basically the only thing I haven't spent hours and hours and hours of time doing, because I've done pretty much everything else. So
Right, right. Now that's
so yeah,
cool. I
yeah,
did some work for a while in North Carolina, which I don't know if Hawaii and North Carolina had a fight who would be more military friendly, but North Carolina is pretty military friendly. There's a lot of bases
for
there.
sure.
We worked around Camp Lejeune for the
Yeah,
Marines, and like the amount of work just in the community. We specifically worked in concrete plants around there. They have massive concrete plants. Why? Because there's always something going on. Whether people
yeah,
are, even if it's just the massive like churn of people going into residential housing, like
yeah,
they move
yeah,
there, they get off the base, they need a house, they either build one, they buy one that was just built that someone else moved out of. There's always someone moving and someone coming.
yeah, yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, there's always
Good.
someone in and someone going out. And yeah, seeing how much work and the size of businesses that were built because of that is it's kind of neat. Like all of a sudden you need an Amazon warehouse here. Why? It's like in the middle of the country in North Carolina. Well, because there's like a bajillion
Just
dudes.
yeah, 500,000 military people and their families.
Yeah, and when they leave to go somewhere, and it's just constantly in. Well, everybody needs to order, everybody needs to buy, everybody needs to build, everybody needs a lawyer, everybody needs a bank, everybody needs a doctor,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's neat to see. Everybody needs a tattoo shop.
For sure. Yeah. Oh my God. The road we're on right now, we come out. So, like, there's a Marine Corps base behind us where we're at. We're in 29 Palms, technically, California. And the road
Okay.
that leads out of the military base, I swear to God, there's 10 tattoo parlors and 15 barbershops within a 2 mile stretch. Like, it's every single business. I'm like, you know who their clientele
Any
is,
tattoo
obviously.
shop could. Yeah. There's never enough tattoos. There's always new fresh skin. So
Yeah, I don't know how they stay alive, but I guess the competition's good, like,
mm,
you gotta pick
yeah, I
your
mean,
art.
everybody needs work done, I guess. There ought to be like
Sure.
more psychologists and maybe gyms or
Counselors.
something like
Yeah.
counselors. But
Yeah.
yeah, something like that. But hey, whatever. We won't get
Yeah.
into that yet.
Yeah.
All right. So you don't. So yeah, here we are. How long were you in Oahu and doing the steel framing and stuff? What happened? Where do you go from there?
So so life got weird in 2012. I guess that would be about 6 years into my union career. I had just become a journeyman, and the company that we were working for decided to start bidding work internationally. So they bid a job in Mozambique, in Africa, and everyone was like, "What? What are you talking about? Where's that? Like, what's Mozambique?"
I'm sure it'll be a
So a
good time.
few of us, right, a few of us young guys without families, and there were guys with families too, but like said, "Hell yeah, let's do that. Let's try this thing." Like, and so they took 52 Hawaiian carpenters and brought them to Mozambique, like all of us on a plane, then on a bus, then into a hotel in the middle of third world Africa. And it
That's
was
stellar.
intense. I mean, yeah, it was wild. That experience, changed my life. I met my wife because of it, everything. But that was what was next. Like that changed everything. So yeah, we all got to this crazy place in southern Africa. Never had Half of those dudes had never left Hawaii. Like they were like completely shell shocked. I've
Wow.
never seen grown men look outside of a bus window and like they were trying to call their wives and like yelling at the foreman like, get me back on this plane, seriously, no, I'm not staying here. Like it was fucking wild.
Really?
And then yeah,
What
and
were
then
they
by
like
the end,
scared of?
they just they had no way to conceptualize what they were about to experience. Like
Hmm.
it's Africa, like it's a completely different world. Like you can see poverty. There's no filter, there's no nothing. There's
Hmm.
literally houses made of, steel panels. Like there's and they had never experienced that. Hawaii is, extremely, I guess I hate that word, but privileged, right? Like even the lower income, like you still have, running water and electricity. But like we
Hmm.
pulled into Maputo, this capital, and like it's this big city, and there's like a few skyscrapers, and it looks kind of like a normal city. And then you drive like a mile on a road, and all of a sudden, like everything's built out of material that looks like they just found. Like, and it was just such a foreign concept. Like
Yeah.
they didn't know how to take it. But yeah, it was the crazy part though was those same people, same dudes that were like ready to go home. By the time that experience was over, they had literally had made families with the locals that were in our area. And
Yeah.
it was amazing to see. Like we were put in this hotel, and that's where we lived and ate and worked out of every day, working 10 to 12 hour days, 6 days a week. But when we'd get back, like there was nothing to do. There was still like
Mm.
internet was decent but not great in Mozambique. Like so we just partied a lot, drank a lot, but like explored. And like literally like after a couple of weeks and then maybe a month, we'd like leave the hotel and go walk around the neighborhoods. And
Mhm.
yeah, it became this extremely enriching experience. And yeah,
Mm.
it was really cool. So that job was kind of the beginning of like my whole path to become, someone who cared about health and like someone who values other cultures and travel and all of that. Like that was my first experience too. Like I had moved from, Midwest to Hawaii, and that was a huge eye opener for me. So I wasn't
Yeah,
as
that's a big
hesitant.
change.
Like I was like, sign me up. Let's go to Africa. Let's go build the shit out of that place. Like what's over there, Like so, but yeah, that was cool. It's a really really great experience. And then yeah, it grew into so much more. Like after that job was done, we went. You know, my cousin who I had moved to Hawaii to live with, and my best friend, we went on a surf trip afterwards. We like made the company allow us to sign waivers saying that they were no longer responsible for us, and they agreed to pay our return ticket, like just leave it open. And then we got on a bus and like went up the coast because we weren't
Wow.
gonna like waste the opportunity. Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
dude. You're in Africa. Might
yeah,
as well get.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
dropped into this little town called Tofo, and I walked into this like yoga slash surf like resort. Like we didn't even know existed. We were in this town called Maputo City. Sorry, there's like 10 million people, and it's just poverty and craziness and chaos and noise and sound. And you go 11 miles up the coast, and there's like these expat communities and local
Mm.
communities where there's like scuba diving and surfing and yoga, and like we're like, whoa, what? This is actually a. So yeah, I walked into this place, and my wife was running the place, and you
Mm.
know 10, 12 years later, we got two kids.
Yeah. And
That's a
just like
long story short, but
yeah, that's a long story
yeah,
short for sure, man.
yeah,
Like, yeah, dude, that's so cool. I want to like pause at this point for a second just to highlight like the opportunities that exist inside the trades are
100%.
unbelievable. Like
Yeah,
a lot of people, for generations have said to their kids, "Oh, don't you better do good in school or you're going to be like that guy." And they point at some dirty guy, walking out of the deli in the morning, or like with a tool belt on, or that was pouring concrete in the street, like, "You better stay in school, Johnny." And it's like, dude, the places I've been and the things I've seen, like, and again, like, it's not the coolest thing in the world, like, it's not Africa, but like, I have been inside of machines down in pits that they're like 0.0% of human beings will ever even see.
like the craziest engineering in the world.
Yeah,
Like,
like
yeah,
just this past week we were, and again, it's I think it's cool, but this past week we were over in a mine. We pulled a crusher out, like the guts. We're rebuilding a crusher that crushes big stone into little stone. You think, oh, that's
yeah.
so simple, and it is. It's not that big of a. It's not that complicated of a process. You smash it. This thing was built in like 1920 or 1930. It's still
Dang.
in operation today,
Oh my god.
every day, and we're rebuilding it. And it's not like it's
You're
destroyed. We're just doing
right.
regular. Every 2 years, they pull the guts out of it. They send it off to get remachined and get some stuff fixed. We fix the cracks. We fix this. We fix that. And then we're going to put it back in. And every bit of the stone that comes out of this place is building Route 80 across the country.
Wow.
Like, it's just part of it. And it's like, that's so cool. And everywhere I've
Super
been,
cool.
like, I don't say everybody everywhere, but like, there's so many different places that you can go, so many different things you can do. If you want to
Right.
go to Australia and you have a trade, guess what you could do? Fly to
Go to
Australia
Australia.
and
They'll
go.
take you.
They'll take
Yeah.
you. Like, and you
Yeah.
might have to pass a test or something, whatever. Like, but if you're
Yeah.
a welder, fine, be a
Oh
welder.
my
They'll
god.
take.
Right.
If you're a bridge carpenter or a concrete guy, or if you're an electrician and you want to go to Thailand, cool. They'll take you.
Yeah.
You want to go to
Yeah.
South America and work and travel and go, you can. All you have to do
Yeah.
is get there. And you might even
Yeah.
have a company. Like, if you want to go different places, like, I'm just saying, there are so many opportunities and
For
not very
sure.
many people think about it in
Right.
that
Yeah.
way.
They have this misconception that like, yeah, that dude that you see coming out of the gas station, we can touch on this later with, his trash food and like whatever. You don't know, like I walked out of that gas station with a bottle of water probably, but that, some kid and some mom's like, you don't want to be like that guy. I own property in Africa and my wife is Afrikaans and I've surfed on three different coasts, like around the
Hmm.
world. Like you saw
Hmm.
me come out of a gas station in Minnesota to go back to work at building out a restaurant in St. Paul. Like you don't have a clue where they've been.
Yeah,
And then on
exactly.
the other hand, there's tradesmen that literally think that they're stuck in this place. Like,
Hmm.
dude, go online. You can go to Antarctica tomorrow. They will take
Tomorrow,
you tomorrow. If you
right
have any
now.
kind of skill set,
Yeah,
they'll take you right now. And
yeah.
you'll get per diem, you'll get all your meals covered, and you'll probably make six figures tomorrow.
Yep. Tomorrow. Yeah.
So,
And if you can't, and if you don't have the skills to get there today, you can grow those skills. You can earn those
100%.
skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, the opportunities are crazy, and it's so cool because it's cool to me because when I was growing up in the trades, 13, 14 years old, I looked over at these older guys, and there was a guy working with us. He was in his late 50s, and he was the guy who, when he got out of high school, he was in New Jersey. He gets out of high school. He's like, I like the mountains, and he worked around New Jersey for a while, a couple years, and he's like, okay, cool. I'm going to Colorado in the
Yeah.
70s. He just went to Colorado, and he's like, yeah. And I went skiing for the winter, and then I needed something to do. So he's like, I got a job at a ski resort fixing ski lifts. And then he got on as a contractor. They taught him all this stuff. He learned all these things, and he spent 20 years in Colorado, Utah, Idaho, everywhere there's a ski resort, Tahoe,
Living the
traveling
dream.
around, fixing ski lifts, building new ski lifts at new ski resorts. He's like, oh, that ski resort? Yeah, I built that. Oh, this place? Yeah, I built that. And then he spent the winters skiing
Yeah.
because that's what he wanted to do. And when he
Right.
got, I don't want to say when he got tired of it, but when he put 20 years into that, he's like, him and his wife and their kids were like, hey, we're going to go back to New Jersey. And he's got all these skills, and he was an equipment operator, and he had a cool job doing cool stuff as an equipment operator in his 50s. Like,
Yeah.
did he need, he
Finish
had
it
a
out.
nice house, he had a pool, he had kids with cars, and he had this great life. And I'm like,
Yeah.
as a 14-year-old kid, I'm like, everything they're telling me in school's a lie.
Yeah.
All a lie. They're
100%.
lying to me. The guy,
Yeah.
one of the guys that I worked for, he was a he's an underwater welder, salvage diver. He spent
Oh
years
man,
in like
so cool.
Thailand, Indonesia, Venezuela, all around the Gulf of Mexico. And when he stopped welding, he was a like a demolition guy. So he would
Yeah.
scrap ships and whatever. He's been all over the world.
Right. It's
And
not
he
like he
owns a
worked
landscaping
like,
company in New Jersey.
oh my god.
You know?
And those make great money too.
I know,
Yeah.
every day he's
Yeah.
just like, "This is great," and, like, that guy taught me, like, so much, when he wanted to fix like, he's like, "Oh, I have a truck and I want a different kind of a truck, like a different bed on it." He would just bring it into the shop, cut off the old bed, fix the truck, build a new bed, and put it on, and we'd paint it the whole night, we weld it, the whole thing. He wants this kind of equipment, he'd just go buy it. He'd go build it, he'd go figure it out. You wanted to go out to eat, you went out to eat. He didn't care about money. He didn't care about what everyone else told me that you should care about status
Right.
and about like what kind of car. The guy, he's like, hey, I don't even own a car. I have 30 trucks. Like, he's like,
Yeah.
what do I want to drive today? And if he wanted
Right.
a car, he could just go buy a car,
Yeah.
because he made a life with his hands, with his skills, with his brain, with
Yeah.
his heart, with his mind, and that was what was taught to me, was what was possible. And it makes me sad. A lot of things make me sad, but it makes me sad when guys feel like all I can do is this. And they don't see the value in what it is that they do. A if you run a rock hammer in a quarry, you're not just a guy who runs a rock hammer in a quarry. You are a guy who is making, literally creating the building blocks of civilization in real time.
In real time. Yeah. That rock's not
That's
going
what you're
anywhere.
doing.
Once it gets placed, whether it goes into concrete or whatever, it's going to be
Mhm.
there for a while.
Yeah. And if you're an
Yeah.
electrician, you're allowed, like, you are enabling modern life to exist with your
Yeah.
skill set.
Those
Like,
guys are wizards. Don't get me started with
dude,
electricians. If I
yeah,
was, if I had to do it all over, I'd probably go that route. I think that,
yeah,
yeah, that's fucking magic. We don't even understand electricity well as a
right.
species, and these guys are harnessing it to like
Yeah.
create light and pretty wild.
Yeah, it's wild. It's all wild, and to
Mhm.
think like, oh, I just put pavement down. I'm just a paver. Oh, I'm just a landscaper. Like, have you seen what landscapers do and hardscapers do? They create experiences for people in their
Sure.
homes that are going to be 40, 50 years of enjoyment to that family who own
Yeah.
that home. You know,
Yeah. And if you're
when you're
not being challenged, right? Like if you're bored and all you do is, hardscaping, go try and do something else then. You've
Mhm.
achieved
Yeah,
that, right? Like see
yeah,
where you can take it. Like what's the next step? Like don't be stuck. You're stuck because, you know, you
yeah, you're stuck
stuck
because 'cause you're
yourself.
stuck. Yeah,
Yeah.
the world isn't stuck, and
Yeah.
currently, like, the opportunities that exist for people that have a skill set, um, it's it is unreal, the
Sure.
opportunities that are out there to grow, to travel, to change, to
Yeah.
develop personally, to, like, the income, like, if you just wanna break it down to dollars and cents, there isn't there isn't a quicker and straighter line from where you are to where you want to get to if you can hold a little bit of discipline and learn a trade.
Yeah.
There just
For
like
sure.
legitimately is not a straighter line to success. And
Yeah.
what
There's
success
no
means,
debt.
that's easy to do. It's not easy. Sorry, each person can define that because I think one of the most extraordinary things in this world is for a man to live an ordinary life, raise kids, love his wife, go to work and do good work for a life. Like, that's a
Yeah.
perfectly acceptable, beautiful thing to go to work hard with your hands and create every day for 20, 30, 40 years. And that's what you do. You don't go far, you just work. Like, that is an extraordinary life. But if that isn't your definition of success and you want to go somewhere else and do more, and I don't want to say be more because there isn't such a thing. The problem with going is when you get there, you're there,
Yeah.
and all your
Yeah.
problems come with you, right? And all your like mess goes with you to wherever you wind up. And so, like, it's not about going, it's not about having, it's not about, but you can. You can wind up in Hawaii. You can wind up in Canada. You can wind up in South America. You can wind up in Australia. You can wind up in Europe.
Yeah.
You could be like, there's a local guy here where I live. We live in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania, up in the mountains. There's nothing here. Like, my town has 400-ish people in it. Okay.
That's awesome.
And there's a guy who's from here. I'm friends with his dad. His dad is like 75 years old. He's been retired 3 times. He retired from the army after Vietnam. He retired from a construction company, built another construction company, built a reclamation company. Like, he's this crazy old dude. And his son is an engineer. And he got hired on to a big farming equipment company. The reason he got hired on out of college is because he was the only kid in the engineering program who ever
Wow.
baled hay,
No
who ever
way.
baled hay. And the company makes
Yeah.
hay balers and skid steers and construction equipment. And this kid is the only kid who baled hay. And they're like, "You're hired
Yeah.
right out of college.
Right.
No questions asked.
Real
You're
world
hired."
experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's taken that. He works for Volvo now, which is based in Europe.
Wow. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
bought him from the company he worked at, a local Pennsylvania equipment manufacturer called New Holland. If you ever heard of New Holland equipment,
Yeah.
so he was a
Yeah.
big time engineer for them. They headhunted him. Volvo headhunted this guy, paid for him and his family, 3 kids, to move to Sweden, put him as
Wow.
to be an engineer for them, to then come back to the United States. And his job, no joke, is he helped design a skid steer. They produced the skid steer prototype. He put it on a
Yeah.
gooseneck with a 1-ton pickup truck and drove from farm to farm to farm around the country, and dropped it off at farmers, let them run it for a week. It came back and said, "What'd you break?"
No way.
Yep, all
What
over
a
the
cool
country,
experience.
all over the country.
That is
That's what he does. So he's a,
that's
and
really
I don't
cool.
even know if he still works for Volvo, but like that's his job. He goes, does, and gets paid. I'm just gonna say he makes a lot of money.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He makes a lot of
I know
money
how
and has
much that
a lot of
is.
perks. Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever you think a lot of money is, that's how much he makes. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah,
Very
it's wild.
cool.
It's wild. Um, man, there's so. What's up, brother? Sorry, my son just walked by. Um,
Phew.
yeah. So, dude, how do you get from Africa? Like, what happens in Africa? You meet your wife. That's kind of cool. She wasn't
Yeah.
your wife at the time, obviously, but you walk
No.
in and you're smitten by the yoga instructor, which
She didn't
that's
do yoga. She was just managing the place.
oh,
Let's be clear. I mean, she liked yoga, but it was yeah. The place was run by some crusty pirate, South African who had moved to Mozambique like in the '80s before it was even a place. Like he had basically built this town, this owner dude, and his wife was into yoga. But yeah,
okay.
they hired my wife straight out of her college experience because she went to school for tourism and hospitality. Mistake
There
on
you
her
go.
part. She hated it, but she
Mistake.
met me there. Yeah, and then
Not
I
all
kind of
bad.
just like no, yeah. We stayed there for 3 months. Like I talked to the crusty pirate and we struck a deal. I said, hey, you got this little grass shack like not being utilized on your property. I'll pay you $300 a month US. And he's like, sure. And it had water and electricity, and we just surfed and lived there. And then I slowly courted my wife because I saw her every day. But it was one of the greatest experiences of my life, and it was all due to construction, blue
Yeah.
collar.
No kidding.
So
No
very
kidding.
cool, yeah.
That is cool. And
So we're going back. I mean, we've been back like 4 times. Like she's South African, so like I
oh,
now
okay.
have a connection to that continent. So
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
but yeah, that turned into trying to get green cards taken care of, and then we had another job that I did for a year in Angola, another African country on the western
Oof.
seaboard,
Yeah.
building houses again, some government project. So that was wild. Now it was like a long distance relationship, so that was tough. But like,
Hmm.
yeah, worked in 2 places in Africa, like just insane experiences. Bought a motorcycle in Angola, like we just go riding on the weekends. Like what the fuck?
Dude,
Like
that's crazy, man.
yeah,
I love it. That's so freaking cool. Um,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I mean, yeah, what about like what freedom? You
sure,
had
exactly.
in no it is not an over exaggeration to say that your decision to pursue the trades in Hawaii as just a I mean, you were basically just like a loser. I mean, sorry,
Uh-huh.
but you got
No,
out of high
yeah,
school and you were a loser. In this
yeah.
world, you were a loser. And like not even a cool loser, like
No,
a
hot
punk
fish
rock,
out of
you
water
know?
loser. I
Yeah.
was like I was like the worst loser. I was like a white boy in Hawaii for one. Didn't know how to surf. Like had no
What?
skill.
Yeah.
Like
And you're like your your choice to pursue the challenge of the trades, like your choice to labor. And maybe it wasn't like an active in your front of your brain choice, but you're like, I need money. I need to
yeah, there's
live.
no
I don't want to
yeah,
go back to Minnesota. I don't want to go back
yeah,
to the mainland. I like Hawaii. What do I have to do? I got to learn how to work. I got to learn how to work
for
hard.
sure.
Like you
Yep.
learned that.
Yep.
And that allowed you long term financial freedom to some extent. It allowed you like freedom of movement. You could go
Yes.
places, do things. And I followed you on Instagram for a while. From my perspective, looking at what you post, you are in this place for a while, you're in this place for like you move about the country
Sure.
with
Yeah.
a fair bit of freedom that
Yeah.
it finds its root in your skill set. Um,
For sure.
that is amazing.
Sure. I mean,
I do not want to
I
understate
have
that.
right, yeah. I'm reluctant to dig into what I'm currently doing because there's a bit of shame, but like I want to touch on that as well.
Hmm.
So after Africa, we came back to Hawaii. I worked on the Big Island, did more work doing commercial construction. It was amazing. Then COVID hit.
Mm.
So COVID made Hawaii feel extremely small. And during COVID, there was the whole remote work, wave, this new thing called remote work. And I was currently driving 2.5 hours one way to go work that job. So 5 hours of driving a day to go build this airport. And just the back of my mind, like we had Africa that we wanted to go see all the time. My wife was pregnant with our first kid. I never saw her.
Mm.
I seriously started thinking about like what other opportunities do I have? Like how can I try and pivot? And that's kind of what brings me to what I wanted to talk about today. Like I'm currently not swinging a hammer. I have calluses. Trust me, they're still here.
Right.
I make sure that I
There you
continue
go.
to keep them. But just my experience from the trades, I seriously look at the trades to that, like they allowed me to do this, but I decided like I can do fucking anything. Like let's try something else. And
Hmm.
I taught myself software engineering, like on the fucking ride to work for 2.5 hours every day for a year. So I learned how to code, right? Like this big thing, like this white collar thing that we all just like hiss
Hmm.
at, right? I learned how to do that.
Not
And
me.
then I used that to get a job when I moved back to Florida after COVID. We left because it was a nightmare there. And I used that to transition into a more white collar life, to be honest. And that's where I am right now. Are we still there? Are you there? Okay, cool.
Sorry about that. That I don't know what just happened there.
No
Um,
worries.
that's so weird. I have like super good internet, but it just killed itself. Sorry. Sorry about that.
No,
You
you're
use
good.
that to
All good.
transition.
Yeah, so use that to transition into something else. I just knew that I needed to, like I said, like you said, location freedom. Construction will do that, but it's not going to give you like complete location freedom. It's going to be dictated by where you can find opportunity, and there's
Mm-hmm.
opportunity everywhere. But I said, let's give this a go. Let's see if I can like go, excel at something else because hard work works. And just I fucking grinded, and I learned as much as I could with this new trade. Like software engineering is a trade. You're
Mm-hmm.
basically a monkey on a computer, like putting in the hours. Like there's nothing. So I went down that rabbit hole and got a certification. And then when we moved to Florida, we left the Big Island to go to Florida. My goal was to get a job in the trades because I wasn't an experienced software engineer. Like I had no experience at all. I just had the certification I passed, which probably didn't mean dick to anybody. So right, like, oh yeah, I did that.
Just
Well,
like
that
the
was a waste of
trades.
time. Yeah, that was a waste of time. Like,
Yeah.
okay, now I'm in Florida. Like, we wanted something new. Big Island was hard for my wife. Super wet. COVID was crazy. Everyone was wearing masks. Not even to get into that, but so I started looking for work in Pensacola, Florida, and I would go to all of these contractors, and I'd walk in like, this is no offense to them, this is regional, but I had a family, right, a wife, a kid, we're buying a house in this place, and they'd look at me and they'd say, "Oh, you're a journeyman, you got your own tools. We'll start you at $17 an hour."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I was coming from six figures, union money in Hawaii,
Yeah.
worth what I was getting paid, busting my ass. They didn't know who
Yep.
I was. Like they
Right.
could see my resume, but I couldn't find anything over like $25 an hour. And I'm like, this isn't going to work. Like, I mean, I'm going to make it work if I have to. But I started
Right.
using that other background that I had. And I went out on a whim. And I mean, I'm really into fitness. And there was this fitness technology startup in Pensacola called Oxfit. And I tried to apply to be a developer for them, a software engineer, and they interviewed me, and I was like not qualified at all. It was super awkward. But the chief, yeah, right, the CBO, like the chief of business operations, this woman Janet, she like they were a startup. They're trying to figure out what's going on, and they were hiring for positions. And she like looked at my resume and she's like, "Wow, you've like ran crews in Africa. You can speak a couple languages, and you have this development, like software development certification. So like you can push people, and like you've shown that you can just all of a sudden pivot and learn a new skill." She's like, that's super cool. Why don't you
Yeah.
come work under me? And I built out their entire like customer experience. Me and
Mm.
her like built this thing. like just building stuff. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
a completely different look. I'm at a standing desk and like I'm downtown. Like I got to make sure I watch my language. Like I'm in a different
Mm-hmm.
world completely. But yeah, like the rest is history. Like I've gone on now. I work for another company. I'm a manager for another company that's fully remote. I'm making almost six figures again using my ability to interact and create, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you probably see me all over the place. We live in a travel trailer right now. We're just exploring the country because why
Nice.
the f not, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you can.
yeah, and
S-
exactly.
yeah. So again,
Sorry
I
to
want to
throw you
like
that
pause here.
that
No,
screwball.
that's awesome. That's so good because I I don't even want to use the word resonate, but like I 100% feel where you're coming from because uh I am blue collar to the bone, like
Sure.
hardcore, right? But I also have taken that skill set, not the hard skills of like how to swing a hammer
Yeah.
but that perseverance, that problem solving ability, and I've applied that to other industries and other types of work. So we have I help run a disaster relief organization, and
Right.
skill
Yeah.
set that is necessary, like the soft skill that's necessary, is communication, it's hard work, it's perseverance, it's problem solving. Like you show up and there's no water, no electricity, no plumbing, everyone's house is destroyed. How do you get showers? You
Right.
solve a problem. You just hammer
Solving
on it.
problems.
And what do?
Yeah.
You stay up late, you get up early, you work hard at every single problem. You apply
Yeah.
that work ethic. And like pivot, yeah, one day you're talking to a homeowner and they're crying. The next 5 minutes later, you're on the phone with somebody who's like, "Hey, I've got a tractor trailer load of blah 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 blah. Where can I get rid? Where can I drop it off?" And hey, my roof fell in and there's a wildfire. Like literally, we were just in North Carolina and we were going to do a damage assessment. And while we were going, there was a wildfire that started at one of the houses we had previously worked on.
Oh my word.
Like, let's turn,
Yep.
and there were awesome people that were volunteering that week that just happened to
For
be
sure.
wildland firefighters, and they were like, "Yep,
Well,
we're there.
that's
We got our gear in the truck," and they were like on their way over there, and they helped out. So the same quality that allows you to be successful in the trades applied in any other environment is
100%.
going to allow you to be successful there.
Yeah.
People don't get that, but it's true.
That's
You
a
want to be a
reminder. I
lawyer?
don't have right. That's
Like,
gonna be tough. Like, you're gonna have to
hammer on
take the
it.
bar,
So
but right,
what?
like,
Work.
exactly, exactly. But like, I went no college degree, no
Mhm,
technical background
mhm,
to being a manager at a software and tech company just with my history and
mhm.
the history from the trades. So
Yeah,
I guess yeah, there is something to be learned there. Like, what kind of pivot do you want? Like,
yeah,
right?
you're right. Yeah,
So
yeah. A
yeah,
lot of guys are afraid, and they're like, "Well, I don't know about this, and I don't know about that." Dude, that job that's strangling you to death, if you don't quit, you're gonna die. Like if you
yeah,
don't move on, you're gonna die. If you don't get it, if you don't challenge yourself to grow, like I talked to a fella and he worked for the same large construction company, heavy road construction company, for like 26 years. And when he started, there were a couple hundred people, which a couple hundred people in a big construction company, that's little. When he quit, eventually it was like 18, 19, 2,000 people. That's a way different
dang,
animal, right? And
yeah,
he knew in his mind, he knew that he hated that. He hated the job that he was doing, which was like being like a supervisor, like a job foreman, superintendent, not
sure.
on the tools, not in a piece of equipment. He knew that he was done with that probably 10 years before, 10 years ago. COVID happened and he was like, "Ugh, I can't do this. I can't
That's
work
gotta
like this.
babysit.
I
Yeah, yeah,
can't like Like yeah, it was basically babysitting. He's like, "Hey guys, did you travel internationally this weekend? Did you do this? Did you do that?" One of his kids' friends had started an excavating company at like a couple years before, and it was about 12 people.
Hmm.
This his kid's friend came to this old guy who'd been working for this big construction company for 26 years and said, "Hey man, we need somebody with your expertise on equipment, but also your ability to run jobs." Because we're starting to bid on, they were bidding on residential stuff, 50 grand here, 100 grand here. They were getting into like county work and like big developments where it's like, we're looking at $1 million project. We're $1.2 million.
Yeah.
It's 5 years long or whatever. And they're like, we don't have the skill set for that. This guy, this old guy was like, I've been running, he's like, a little job for me is $1.5 million. Like
Yeah.
this
Right.
big construction company, they're doing $100 million road construction projects. He's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I could help you with that. So he quits his job in COVID, quits his job in COVID, and
That's
goes to work
wow.
for these little guys. And I'm talking to him, and he's like, "Bro, that's the best
Best
decision I
decision you
ever
ever
made."
made.
He's like, "I've never been more challenged, but I've never been more happy." He's like, "I'm finally doing the things that I'm good at, that I can get paid for, and
Sure.
the world needs it." Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. He's like, I'm so happy, content, like not content in the bad way, content in like every day there's something to do that's gonna make a
Yeah.
difference. And he's like, I wasted 10 years. It's like, I know I
Yeah.
wasted 10 years. It's been 10 years of me hating this. And like we have to keep challenging ourselves. Um, we have to keep taking chances. We have to keep growing. If we don't do that, man, it just like that's where you see these guys like just kind of collapse
Yep.
in on themselves. So
Yep. And you combine that with like poor diet and
yeah,
stress and
yeah,
like
let's get
just
into
a lot of
that, man. Because
okay.
because that's uh, my personal experience. Growing up, looking at these guys, they were all tough, they were all strong. Um, but they all drank a lot, like to excess every single day. You ate what you wanted. You ate like, oh, we're going out for pizza tonight again. Like you ate out every day. You ate out for breakfast. You ate out for lunch. You went to a bar for lunch. You went to a bar for dinner. That was the standard that I saw. And I found myself in 2020, in like right as COVID was happening. Like I had taken a pretty sedentary supervisor job, and I had become kind of what I always said I didn't want to be, which was way fatter than I expected. I'm not a big guy. Like I'm only 5'4", and I was pushing 200 pounds, sitting at a desk managing like a bunch of mechanics and welders who were all way overweight at the same time. And
Yeah.
I'm like staring at my future, looking at the guys who have the same job as me 10 years from now, and they're like 100 pounds overweight. And like I found myself at a Fourth of July party, and the my all my nephews were playing wiffle ball, and I suck at sports. I don't even like sports, but I'll play. And they were like, "Hey, we're gonna play another game," and I'm like, "Nah, I'm good." And I was sitting by the fire with like another hamburger on the plate and some potato salad, and I'm like, I don't think I'm not the right person anymore. Like I'm not the person I should
Yeah.
be. And I made a decision that day, like this can't be my life. And I actually reached out to you right about that time and said, like,
Yeah.
because I saw some of your content about fitness and blue collar fitness and stuff, and I'm like, what do I need to do, like diet wise? Because I
Sure.
whew, like I needed help, and you turned me on to some cool stuff. And so like I
Yeah.
respect you and trust you in these matters. And so I really want to have a deep, lengthy conversation about like what are the problems that we're facing, like what are the consequences of some of these problems on these families, guys, people in the trades, like some of the big picture stuff, and like what can we do. um
For sure. Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's it's just like we were talking about, and maybe it was offline, but yeah, it's the stigma. Like you said, you just do whatever you want. You got to get through the day, and Work is really hard. How do you, make yourself feel better? Basically, what I feel it kind of boils down to. Like the guys that are in the trades that are young, they probably grew up eating trash. The guys that are
Hmm.
in the trades that are older, they've been eating trash their whole lives, and it's the only like they could love their job, they could hate their job, but that feeling, that mouth feel with
Hmm.
the cheeseburger, the taco, the breakfast burrito from the gas station, like it's home, it's comfort, right?
It
Like
is. It
it'll
is.
help you get through the day, right?
Mhm.
It's not an easy task to do what we do, and convenience and comfort come from stuff like that.
Mhm.
And that's the main issue. Like if you want to talk about like what the biggest issues are that are burdening blue collar and basically society, it's, you know Bobby Kennedy's about to come shake up the house, but it's
Let's
processed
go.
garbage. Let's
Yeah.
go. It's processed food, it's processed garbage, it's processed sugar, highly refined carbohydrates, seed oils, alcohol. Like, what the fuck? These aren't foods. And this is what I learned. I went down the path. Like I tried, dipped my toes into vegetarianism, got the hell out of there quick. It was Hawaii, right? Like everybody was doing.
There's plenty of
But
fruit.
immediately, like, right, I found around 2010, so it was like 15 years ago, this whole paleo diet, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
What's this paleo diet? Like getting clowned a little bit as it came out, like, well, you're gonna eat like a caveman. And then you start to realize, like, yeah, you fucking dummy. Like we are supposed to eat in this kind of ancestral way, these ancestral patterns. The human animal, we've been around for almost, depending on how you feel about evolution or whatever. Let's just say I
Let's get
want to like make
into
sure everyone.
it. Woo! Yeah. We've been around for a
Either
long
way, like
time. Yeah, either way.
we've been around for a long time, and for this very, very short period, we've been eating, processed seed oils, which are hydraulic fluid. They were created in the 40s for World War II. That shit
Hmm.
didn't exist before,
Right.
like canola oil, vegetable oil, all of that. We're eating versions of bread and gluten and grains that aren't prepared correctly. They're not fermented. They always were. If you want to talk about traditional foods, like even 10,000 years ago, you never just ate that thing milled. And then, the sugar aspect of it, like never in your life did you come across sugar in the amounts that we do, right?
Mm.
And it's so clear when you think about the human animal. Like, we are a feast and famine species. For most of our development, it was
Hmm.
like, give me calories so I don't die or I survive through the winter. So you go and you do that, and then your biology reflects that. So, it's a mismatch. Where in modern day, like, all of these easy, cheap calorie foods are everywhere, and
Mm.
all your body wants to do is consume them. So this is the main issue, and this is what I like to harp on and preach. It's like, you need to take a step back, look at what we ate traditionally. Depending on how far back you want to go, it's real easy to see that all of this stuff is new mostly. And if the better and closer we can align with what we had been eating traditionally for since the beginning of human development, the healthier you're going to be. And then, a lot of the pushback is like, but yeah, cavemen only lived to 30 years old. Average lifespan includes infant mortality
Uh-huh.
and disease,
Yeah.
right? Those humans that we have dug up and uncovered were free of cancer. They were free of heart disease. They were free of autoimmune conditions. They lived bold, beautiful lives into
Did
their
they have
90s and
all their
100s.
teeth? Like,
They did. They had
unless they got
dentition,
knocked out.
right? Unless they got knocked out,
Yeah.
right? Like, and
Hmm.
then there's a gentleman named Weston A. Price. Like, he was a doctor back in the 40s and 30s. He was a dentist actually, and he
Mm.
went and tried to go look at all these traditional cultures and look at what they ate and checked their, like, now that you bring up teeth, this is a perfect segue, but check their teeth and tried to see like what was causing just horrible outcomes with people's teeth. And it
Yeah.
was basically, as soon as they were introduced to processed sugar and grains, their traditional culture fell apart completely,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
all of the swamis in Northern Europe and like South America, like everyone who stayed with their traditional diets, even up until the late 19th, 20th century, like they still had wonderful, robust health. And
Mm.
it's this introduction of these new foods
Mm.
that is what's destroying, humanity. if you want to get real.
Humanity.
But
Yeah.
blue collar, right? Like we get this free pass for some reason to eat like children, right?
Yeah.
No offense, you guys. No
Yeah.
offense. Stop eating like a little kid.
Yeah.
Like, like just because your parents gave you, chicken nuggets, threw it in the oven because they were too busy or whatever, doesn't mean you need to eat like that into your adulthood. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
sorry, I
that's
get
no, no, no.
heated, but
Don't be
this is it.
sorry. It is. It's super important. I care a lot about it. Because like so, for my perspective, the meat suit that we have, it
Love it.
contains our brain, and if this thing doesn't work, our brain is absolutely useless. If you have all the skill set in the world, but you can't climb up into your crane,
You're done.
what good
You're
are you?
done.
Like what?
Right.
And like if you can go to work and build a massive skyscraper, but when you come home, you can't pick your kid up and throw him in the air. If you can't
What
go
good are
ride
you?
dirt bikes with your son, like
Sure.
if you're too messed up physically to do the things that make life worth living, but you can get to work for 60 hours a week, like, and how long are you going to be? And yeah, like it matters what we do with our bodies. It matters because we are, no matter what your perspective is, whether you're into Eastern mysticism or Christianity or whatever, we are, without a doubt, unequivocally, not just physical beings. We're also spiritual beings. We have a brain that's separate in a lot of ways from like our mind. Like, and I say separate, like, have you ever been mowing your grass, doing something physical, but your brain is anywhere but there, but you're mowing and it looks great
You're
when you're done.
full autopilot. Yeah.
Yeah, because your brain
That's
exists and is thinking
yeah,
and going and being creative. When all of the outside things stop working properly, the brain starts to atrophy at the same rate. You can't
100%.
dream very big when you can't get your boots on. If
That's
you can't
beautiful.
lace up your boots, you're
That's the
not going to
quote.
dream very big. Um,
Yeah,
it's just the way we are. We're mind, we're body, and we're soul or spirit, however you want to think about that. And we
sure.
can have a great discussion about that part of it, but we really are. And so, how do we connect? Because what modern culture has done is not just disconnected us from our food. Like, like food doesn't come from grocery stores. Carrots don't come from bags. They
Yeah.
just don't. Meat doesn't come from a shelf. Meat comes from an
Styrofoam.
animal, okay?
Yeah,
And you have to kill it in order to gain its what it was created to do for us and for the
yeah,
world. Like blood has to be spilled. And if you want beautiful grass and awesome forests, there's going to have to be animals that die in that forest to fertilize that soil. Like it's all part of this big system.
for
Not only have
sure.
we separated out that and said, nope, don't look at that. We've separated out what your physical body can do from what your mind can do. And as a modern or postmodern, however you want to think about it, world, we've separated the soul from the physical, from the mind. It's all separated, and they cannot be connected again. Now we know, I think, that yes, they can.
Yes.
If you go and work out, you're gonna get connected to your soul pretty
Yeah.
quick when you're
Yeah.
doing, over the bar burpees. You're gonna pray a lot when you're down there
Yeah.
that you don't
That's a
die.
meditation right
Yeah, like
there.
like that connection needs to be made. And our modern world has said no. You can work in an office, you can be extremely successful, you can have all the money and all the food and everything you need for survival, and you don't have to be spiritual in any way. You don't have to dream. You don't have to think. You don't have to grow in any sense of that word. And you don't have to work out. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to be capable. None of it. You can just be a soft, whatever. You can be 100% physical. You can be like hard, a mason. Like if you are around some serious block layers, stone masons,
Bro.
dude, their hands are going to
They
crush your whole
crush
body
skull. Yeah.
just like that. But you don't need to worry about your brain. You don't need a brain for this work. Yeah, you do.
You
You
do.
really do. And like Mike Rowe, he says, we don't need. more welders or more philosophers. We need more welders
Welding philosophers.
who can philosophize, and we need more philosophers who can weld. We need
Yeah.
to get back to the philosopher kings, guys
Yes.
who are physically capable, who can move, can get in, can get out, could run, can grab you. Like if I'm on a job site and I get stuck or I get hurt, 90% of the guys that I work around, I am not confident could
Couldn't
get
do
me out.
shit.
They
Right.
couldn't pick, and I
Yep.
only weigh 170 pounds. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think they could grab me up out. It's just not possible. We need men, women, both, who are capable, who
Capable.
are
Yeah.
wise, and who are strong, capable mentally, strong physically, and wise spiritually. I guess you could say.
For
And
sure.
we're so far beyond that, and that eating like children. It's because they still are.
100%.
Seventy
They've not done
percent.
any work.
No, 70% of men in the trades fatherless
Yeah.
or broken homes.
Yeah.
And
Some trauma there. I mean, can't
dude,
completely.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not saying like, oh, you're stupid or you're bad or you're lazy or you're fat.
Right.
Like those all might be true. You might be
Sure.
stupid, you might be lazy,
Yeah.
and you might be fat. I don't know. But
But there's a better
at a
way.
certain point, you have to take responsibility. It's not because there's too many energy drinks in the gas station. It's not
No.
because your dad was mean to you. It's not because you got a
No.
pink blanket. Like it's not because I live in Pennsylvania. They now you could get alcohol in every gas station. You could get these little to go shots. Like what are they for? They're to
Yeah.
go home with? No, they're to drink before you get
They're
back
for
in your truck.
alcoholics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like you can gamble in every single gas station with a gaming thing. Like everything is being designed in some very real way, no matter how conspiratorial you want to get or don't want to get. Everything in this world is, in a sense, being designed to keep you medicated, slow, lazy,
100%.
disengaged from the real world, from the grass and from the sky. Do you know how many people like don't go outside at night and look at the sky and experience the cold and the rain on their skin? They couldn't tell you if it's like it snows and they're like, it's never snowed before. It snows every year.
Yeah.
It's
We're headed
cold
towards,
every year.
Idiocracy and Wally. Combine those two together. That's where we're
Man,
going, man.
predictive programming at its finest.
I understand. Yeah. I mean, that's my biggest like that's one of the things that I like to talk about and harp on is blue collar has a very unique opportunity,
Mhm,
right? Like we are the only people where our sole job is to move our bodies outside in the sun.
mhm.
Like this is your job. Like
It's
there may
all
be
we
some
have left.
indoor work, whatever. Yeah,
Sure.
like even if you're inside, you're still on your feet. You're not sitting at that desk.
Mhm,
You're not like stuck in this place. So now you have this advantage of biology, like where the human animal is supposed to be moving all day long.
mhm.
Imagine putting on top of that the correct diet. Like if you could eat to benefit yourself. Now
Mhm,
throw in if you got time because it's not even really necessary, but like some sort of correct, strength training or movement outside
mhm,
of the same old screws you're pushing every day. Like do some
mhm,
stuff to rebuild your shoulders or your back. Like now you're an athlete. You're a human athlete.
mhm.
You are that philosopher king that you're Marcus Aurelius who could probably like choke a man and lift him up. Like you
Probably.
can have skill, you can be healthy, and you can create the world that you want. But it's not going to happen with a tin of Grizz, a monster, and a gas station burrito. Like it's
Mhm.
just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And
And
you're going to fall apart, fall flat
mhm,
on your face.
mhm. Yeah, why does everyone's back hurt? Why does everyone blow their shoulders out? Why does everyone blow their knees out? Like, "Oh, getting old sucks." I don't know, man.
Bro.
Getting fat sucks. Getting
Yeah.
lazy sucks. Becoming completely crushed under the weight of everything that you've not done, like the debt that you're, and I don't know, I'm getting like real weird and out there, but like
Yeah, yeah. But
your
you're
car
making
payment is crushing you spiritually. Like it's
yeah.
crushing your soul because you're trapped. You're a slave. You are now
Yeah.
stuck. And yep, I gotta drink. I got to like drinking works. It numbs the pain,
Yeah.
man, and it's socially
That's what it,
acceptable. It's very socially.
right.
I don't personally. I don't drink. I haven't drank
Yeah.
like I was a really weird kid, and I was like straight edge in high school. So like
That's
I
cool.
don't like when I was 14. You were like an Abercrombie kid. I would have punched you in your face when we
Fuck
were
yeah.
kids
Yep.
because I was like
Yeah.
a hardcore punk rock kid and like skater and so I don't drink. I don't have a problem with people drinking. I don't think it's morally good or bad, but like
Yeah.
it works. It solves the problem. It numbs the pain. It accomplishes the goal. If it didn't work, people wouldn't do it.
Right.
Like
It
all
numbs
the
the pain.
it just numbs you out and
Yeah.
people want that. But like man, we as a culture, as like blue collar guys, as people who work for a living, like you said, we have this unique opportunity. Imagine if you were physically capable, you were free in your mind, clear headed. What could you create as far as life
Right.
goes? What could you create as far as like the job? How much time could you rescue back, like claw back from everywhere else, from your phone, if you weren't addicted to all of these things? And what could you do at that time? Like,
Yeah. You know
could
what they
you raise your
did?
kids better?
They created the Coliseum. They created Notre Dame. That's
Yeah,
what they fucking did,
yeah,
right?
right. And
Like
we're like
that's
putting
what
up,
tradespeople did.
putting up Walmarts,
Yeah.
you know,
Hanging
and
drywall,
yeah,
toxic drywall.
which is all great, it's great, but like, what could you build for your family? Like, what
Sure.
kind of time could you claw back from this world? And like, could you, like, as you use your clear mind and your strong body, could you solve the problems that this world needs to be solved and make products and make new businesses that are going to provide for other people and literally solve problems that exist in this world?
Sure.
The next great, where's that going to come from?
Insert. Exactly.
Yeah, insert
Yeah.
whatever, and you're the
Right.
only one who knows it because you're the only one having that experience.
For sure.
Yeah, because it's endless. It's absolutely endless. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Got to live up to your full potential, you
yeah.
know.
So
But like,
how do we
how do
make
we
that
do it?
transition from like again, like, dude, I worked in the oil field. I've worked hard my whole life, and when you work 16 hours straight and it was dark when you went in, it was dark when you come home, you like you drive 3 hours to a job site. Like, what can we do? Like, how do we solve this problem to become the most capable that we can be and like the most optimal people? Like, how do we solve that problem in the world we have?
Sure. For sure. Well, first off, you got to understand that it's going to take time, extra time outside of those 16 hours. And it's just gonna, right? There's going to be a little bit of extra effort required in order to make a plan for your health. Now, the guy that works in the oil field, 16 on, 8 off or whatever, that's tough. That's not something that is like the typical experience for the day to day, electrician or plumber, but
No,
it
it's not.
definitely
It's
can
not
be,
typical.
right? But even that experience would require, in my opinion, it's even more important that you take care of yourself because
Mhm.
now you're just running all the way to the ground, and
Yeah.
it's just preparation. It's like the convenience that the gas station provides is not something that we should have gotten used to, right? You
Mm.
should have had to prepare your meals. You should have to go to the grocery store the night before to buy that whole roast chicken that you're going to,
Mhm.
pair with a peach and an avocado,
Mm.
right? Like you're going to, like, if you, let's say you're even like in the oil field and you're in this little container with 7 other guys, you got a microwave. You can scramble eggs, put some cheese on it, and put it in a microwave.
Mhm.
Eat 6 eggs in the morning. You know how long you're going to be satiated? You know
Yeah.
how much protein and fat that is that's going to take care of you? Like
Yeah.
the excuses are there. But I mean, if it's lack of education, I understand. But if you, for some reason, feel like you have to do this thing, sorry, man, you're not going to win. You're just,
Mm,
you have to put in the work. Like, get educated, figure out what real food is. And I feel
mm,
like, maybe I'm too close to the answer to understand how difficult it is for some tradespeople and blue collar people. But
yeah.
intuitively, that Monster and hot dogs are not breakfast foods, right? So
Sorry,
it's
I
just
just
it
that is the
takes extra
standard
work.
oil field breakfast, lunch,
I
and
understand.
dinner. Like that
It's
is what
tough,
it is. It's tough,
right? It's
yeah,
fucked.
but
It's tough, but
it's not insurmountable. So
no,
on a really like granular down to like very fine point, are you like what are some like actual menu choices that make sense? And forget about the extreme of the oil field because I mean
sure,
it really is the extreme. But even in that world, you're right. You can put a crock pot in the hotel room or in the man camp, and I'm telling you, if you get a nice crock pot, all the boys are going to be into it, and you
hell yeah,
put food in there that's good and people want to eat good home cooked meals, they're
yeah,
gonna want to be into it. You could, like, if you're a welder, if you're a rig welder, you could put a grill on the back of your truck and
it's
everyone's gonna be
on,
down with it. Like
right?
nobody cares, everybody's down, like.
Yep,
So what are some actual like menu items, like, or philosophies of eating, like what
sure.
should we be looking at?
So what I've morphed into over time is this ancestral protocol, but what I've realized is like there are people that have issues with, not to call them out as being children, like with broccoli or some vegetables, or like there are people with food issues. But the
Hmm.
most simplistic way that a human could survive and eat well and thrive is animal products and fruit. Those two
Okay.
things. Maybe throw in a little bit of white rice or some sweet potato, but even fruit squashes fruit, right? Like we don't have to talk sweet fruits. Like eating animals and fruit is the simplest thing that you could possibly do. But if you wanted to talk about like menu items, like you could literally have a couple third pound patties every day prepped for you in advance, burger patties, the cheese that you like, an avocado, and then some berries. You could prep that
Mm,
on Monday for the rest of the week. You
mm.
throw those two burger patties in the microwave, you put a little ketchup on them, whatever, like, or even some mayonnaise, but I hesitate there. You got to have avocado
Gotta
or
have the
mayonnaise,
right
a little bit more.
mayonnaise.
Yeah, but like that is I eat that almost every day. I eat burger patties for lunch because I don't get tired of them, right? Or
Mm,
you could do chicken thighs with skin on, bake a whole pan of them on Sunday evening, and then take two or three of them with all the coolest herbs and spices you want. Maybe prep like 10 or 12 sweet potatoes, make it into a mash, put that in containers and take that with you,
mm,
right? You're you're going to this whole idea that we need all of this variety is also a learned response, right? You can try and give yourself some variety, but at the end of the day, you're going to reach a limit in that variety where you're starting to eat things that aren't good for you. So you're
interesting.
going to get into
Okay.
this groove and you're going to eat this stuff that feels and looks the same, but you're going to feel great and you're going to feel better. And then there is space for pizza on Friday. There is space for Thai food on Tuesday. But what did you do the other 90% of the time? You had, whole food, a little bit of fruit, and then vegetables that worked for you, right? And you prepped it ahead of time and it was done. Like you said, crock pot, take a piece of chuck roast, put some, taco seasoning on that. You don't have to eat it in a tortilla. How amazing is that with like a massive dollop of sour cream and an
Mm,
avocado on the side,
right.
right? Like take that to work and eat it ad nauseum, eat it to satiety. There's no rules necessarily when you're
Mm,
starting to readjust your body and its metabolism. Like calories in, calories out is a thing. But in the beginning, especially if you're just retraining your body how to use these energy sources,
mm,
carbohydrates, fat, and protein, like that should be the least of your worries. It's getting the proper nutrition in your body, the foods that taste good and feel good, and then yeah, you can go from there.
Yeah.
So I hopefully that's not like super simplistic. Like we can make meal plans all day long. The
Right.
point is have an animal source that you enjoy with whatever herbs and spices that make it tasty, even sauces, as long as you're trying to avoid things with seed oils. Pair that with some sort of low sugar fruit like a squash or even a sweet potato, and then have a piece of fruit that you like. Let's say it's an apple or a peach or some berries. Like that is an amazing lunch. Who
Mhm.
doesn't want to eat that, right?
Right.
It's like,
Right.
I don't really like, a bunch of Kerrygold butter on warm sweet potatoes. Like, who the fuck are you, bro? Get the fuck
Gross.
out of
Yeah.
here. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
gross.
Yeah.
Right?
So you said something in there, eating and then feeling. And we all have experienced, like, guess what? Eating 3 hot dogs for lunch and 2 monsters, you are like, you feel like a huge pile of garbage. You
Yes.
crash, you feel bloated, you got the runs, like, and I'm going to say we, a lot of tradespeople don't have running water on job sites. And so you're using a little blue house to take a poop in. It's
Yeah,
terrible,
that's fun. It's
right?
fucking
Like,
terrible. They're
it's
disgusting, especially in the
disgusting.
heat.
Right.
Yeah.
And so and they're cold in the winter. You're trying to
Yeah.
squeeze out of your Carhartts. It's the worst, right?
Yeah.
But like we all know that um that feeling of like what I eat makes me feel like garbage. What I
Sure.
eat makes me not feel like garbage. Um
Right.
we all know that like drinking too much alcohol makes us feel like garbage the next day, but we still do it. Like, how do
Yeah.
we overcome, like, I know what the right thing is, but I just suck at I just don't want to do it. Like,
Yeah.
how do we get over that hump as, I don't know, as humans? Like,
Sure.
I feel like we're addicted. Like, I feel like a drug addict. Like, I eat right for months, and then all of a sudden I'm like, that brownie looks pretty good. And then I'm like off the wagon, and I feel like I'm gonna die.
Brownies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
So that's again back to what I was talking about. Like that's biology. There is a scarcity piece that you have no control over, right? Like you see that easy sweet calorie and you remember what it tasted like. You're back, 15,000 years ago on the plains. You're like, I need food or I'm going to die. Seriously, like this,
yeah,
that's just how we're wired.
hmm,
And my recommendation for getting started for one is that will be the hardest part. You have to literally get that shit out of your life. You pantry purge and you make the decision. No one can make that for you. You're
mm,
either gonna hit that literal rock bottom or you're gonna save yourself before it happens. Like you don't want to be in a doctor's office with some sort of, exactly.
problem.
So exact problem.
Yeah,
You don't even want to talk to that guy. Keep that guy out of your life. So you have to make the decision today, and then you learn what to do. Come follow me or someone else on Instagram, learn about, primal paleo diets, ancestral health, learn how to eat like a human being. And
right.
then you start making that decision, but you got to get it out of your life. And then the second piece is when you fall off, you got to have like some sort of grace and patience with yourself. A
Mm,
lot of people will go down this like deep spiral because that's this guilt. It's like
right,
release it. Just start again tomorrow. Like,
right,
cool, you had a bad day. Start again tomorrow. And then eventually that start again tomorrow happens right away. You're back on the horse. And then now you're eating that brownie because it's amazing and your wife made it or like your daughter
right.
wanted to show you how she could cook and you enjoy
Hmm.
every piece of it and it doesn't spiral into like, you know, 37 beers and a line of, you know, or
Pizza,
wherever you end
pizza.
up, line of pizza. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah, like there's those two pieces. Like it's super important that like get educated first, gotta make the decision, and then just be patient and kind to
yeah,
yourself
yeah.
when things happen,
Yeah. I in the last few years, as I've changed, I mean, I've changed my diet like 100%. It's totally different than it was,
Yeah.
and I don't miss a lot of stuff. It's not like and if I want to order wings, on a Saturday with my son watching a UFC fight or something,
Yeah.
I'll order wings. I
Yeah.
will, and then I'll. It's fine. It's not the end of the world, and I've been able to pretty well regulate like my weight, regulate how I feel. I don't have these like huge just like crashes. I feel healthy. I feel good on a daily basis. And when I do, hey, I go out to lunch with the boys. We went out to I don't know, wherever, Buffalo Wild Wings the other day, and I had a couple street tacos off their menu. You know what?
Yeah.
They were good. There was it's probably some weird seed oil sauce on it. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it was roasted seasoned chicken, some veggies, some guacamole, and
Yeah.
some vinaigrette. Oh boy, and I felt great. I didn't look like a weirdo. I
Yeah.
wasn't some like eating a carrot in the corner.
Yeah.
And the diet that I've kind of settled in on is basically the primal blueprint. If it
Yeah.
comes out of a
100%.
box, I am not eating it. If it's processed, I'm not eating it. If it's heavy on the grains, so I don't eat. Generally speaking, I don't eat bread. I don't eat wheat. I don't eat
Yeah.
beans. I
Yeah.
I do eat a little bit of rice from time to time, just because
Yeah.
honestly, because it's a filler. That's why I
Yeah.
eat it because
It's great.
it's
Rice is
fine.
fine. Like
Yeah, and that's what I've basically boiled down to is
yeah.
it's real. Like, so I'll eat potatoes because my wife grows them in our ground,
Yeah.
in our garden.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to eat a couple potatoes.
Yeah.
Like, according
Right.
to the diet, you probably, it's
Yeah.
too starchy. I don't know. I eat mostly meat. I
Sure.
went hardcore carnivore for like 2 straight months. Um, and that was the carnivore experience was like so interesting. Yeah, I
It's
felt
interesting.
really good at first. Then I felt
Yeah.
really bad for a day. Like I like couldn't drive.
Yeah.
Like I
It's
was like, "Oh, I don't feel so good. Honey, can you drive?" And I slept, and then after that I felt great. But
sure.
you know what? I got so bored.
Yeah.
Which sounds crazy. Like, eat a steak every day. How can you get bored of that? Bro, I
No, you
just
get bored.
wanted an apple.
Yeah.
I was like,
That's yeah.
please give me an apple,
Right.
like a
Carnivore
grape.
diets are yeah.
No
I,
grapes.
you don't get to have any
And
grapes.
yeah.
Just,
Uh,
so they're tools. Like that's a tool. To me, a carnivore diet is a tool in my tool belt
mm,
for a client that has some sort of deep autoimmune issue. And that's what we're going to discover as soon as we start to allow this type of scientific research. But
mm,
it is nature's best elimination diet. So
right.
it's, you're hearing about it because people are destroying their IBS, destroying their autoimmune conditions, their eczema, all of this stuff, because what the carnivore diet is allowing you to do is still get a fuel source via fat and still
Hmm.
be able to maintain muscle mass via protein,
Hmm.
but cutting out all of the, sorry to say this, plant matter that's causing people issues. And like we
Right.
touched on before, there are correct ways to eat and prepare these plants. But I
Hmm.
touch on this in my courses, like plants have had 4 billion years to develop the best chemical warfare of any species on the planet.
Right.
Like a broccoli can't run away from you. It doesn't, right? It doesn't have fangs. It doesn't have claws like animals do to defend predators, right?
Hmm.
Fruit wants to get eaten on the other hand. Like its only goal is to look pretty and taste sweet. So you'll shit out its seed somewhere so it can
Yes.
go on to
So it
create
can
more.
go on and get more. Yeah.
Exactly.
It
But
wants to live.
kale, right? Kale, Swiss chard, like onions, like they're great. I love onions. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to dog the whole vegetable world, but like these vegetables, they do have some sort of anti-nutrient that will affect the mammal. That's their whole
Mhm.
purpose. Like
Mhm.
they don't want to get eaten. So
Right.
yeah, like cutting out carnivore diet gets people away from those inflammatory things that were causing them issues, because bottom line is like the reason people have those issues, like hereditary genetic disposition or not, it's due to what you consume. It can also be due to like environmental toxins and all of that stuff, but the majority of people are dealing with IBS because there is something that they are consuming that has destroyed their gut biome, right,
Mm-hmm.
in the past. And
Yeah.
by eliminating it, they're now, able
Yeah.
to get relief from that. So yeah, carnivore diets are tools.
Yeah.
Ketogenic diets, that's another tool,
Right.
right? Like ketogenic diets are super powerful because they allow your body to retrain its metabolism. You can
Mm.
now burn fat again. If you're just drinking Monster and eating tacos all day every day, when you start to consume actual fats, it's going to get stored as fat. Your body
Yeah.
is so used to burning glucose that it doesn't even know how to
Doesn't
utilize
care.
those
Doesn't need
fats.
it.
Doesn't
Yeah.
care. It's like,
Yeah.
let's just put it on our waist. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a tool, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I've, in my last 15 years of really digging in, like I've come to a place where, like I say, don't eat bread, or like try and stay away from nightshades, or all these things. Like the purpose of that is to build something that will work first. And then
Hmm.
you can start reintroducing things back in. Like
Yeah. And
if you
and
really want it, like learn
yeah.
how to eat it.
Yeah. And I noticed when I very quickly like went from 0 to 100 miles an hour from like I eat whatever I want to I have a super strict diet. I noticed almost instantly I felt better, and I noticed long term because I did it like I did a strict primal blueprint for almost 2 years straight, no deviations. I
Yeah.
noticed when I would like after that like 2 year mark, I would like, oh, let me have a piece of pizza. I I could tell a difference in how I felt. And then like, oh, like I like ice cream. I can have a little ice cream, but boy, does it give me a headache. Like
Yeah.
it's like my whole body like transitioned away from that. Like eating
Yeah.
certain things, and then I didn't really want to eat them. And I'll tell you some of the weird stuff is like my teeth felt better and were better. Like my teeth like were stronger. I don't
Yeah.
know how to say that any
You,
other way.
you're
Like
remineralizing your teeth. You can
yeah,
literally do
it
that.
was crazy. I was like, "Oh my gosh." Like I didn't even know my tooth hurt. Now I know my tooth doesn't hurt, and
Yeah.
they're just like lots of little changes. I had, on like one of the things that I did is I stopped drinking all kinds of things like liquids that weren't water. So I just drank water and like I don't think that consciously had a glass of water for 20 years. And then I started drinking a gallon of water or, near a gallon of water a day. I'm like, I'm not drinking anything else. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
drinking soda. I'm not drinking iced tea. Like, I didn't really drink a lot of soda anyway, but whatever. All of a sudden, I'm like, bro, I don't get headaches anymore. I had a headache for like from the time I was 14. I think it's because I was dehydrated, like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So I like didn't have a headache every single day of my life. You know what else?
Yeah.
Is like I have a lot of stress at work. I wasn't adding to the trouble by eating like a kid. Like
Yeah.
eating all that sugar, it's affecting your cycle, I think,
A
inside
hundred
of you
percent.
of like oh, I'm fired up, I'm stressed normally, like, and now
Cortisol. Yeah.
I'm adding all of this chemical to my body with what I'm eating. Well, now when I cut all that out and I started eating correctly, I'll say, I don't want to offend anybody, but like I started eating correctly, a lot of that the response in my body, the stress, it didn't have the same effect on me. That's disgusting. Yeah. My daughter's like waving Cheetos in front of me over there. I'm like, yeah. So
Temptation.
yeah. So you start to feel better, not just like physically, like I don't feel bloated, but like I know when I changed my diet, I started exercising, which I think was another huge component of this. I started
Yeah.
intentionally exercising. My brain, all of a sudden, like I was better equipped to comprehend what I was reading,
Yeah.
like just at
Switched
work.
on.
Like I'm looking at blueprints going, yeah, I know how to get this done. I know, like I'm not forgetting measurements as much. and I know this is like all weird anecdotal. You probably can't prove this with science, but like there were lots of things, and I'll tell you, I quit that sedentary job and went back to running my own company in 2021. Um, I I was able to make good decisions, clear minded, work harder, go
Yeah.
farther, stronger. Like I was more capable. I was a more capable person, and a lot of that started with changing my diet. And then I added on the next building block, which was moving my body intentionally. And I 100% attribute where I am today, the clear conversation I'm able to have with you, the freedom to do it, the business that I've built with one of my really good friends, to changing my diet and moving intentionally. Um, yeah,
It's
like
amazing.
I hate to say it, but like up until 2020, like when I was in high school and college, like I would read like 5 books at a time, like not one and then the other. Like I would read a book and then read a book and then read a book all at the same time. By the time I was like 35, 36, I could barely sit down and read. Like I could
Right.
read, obviously, but I would just
Yeah.
fall asleep.
Yeah. Me
Like I
too.
would
Yeah.
just fall asleep instantly, and I just
Been
chalked it
there.
up to I'm working so hard. Now I can sit down and consume a book, and like a pretty
Heck yeah.
deep and heavy, thick, like a piece of literature. I can
Sure.
comprehend it, work through it, learn. Like I can read Jordan Peterson on the regular
That's
now.
tough
Like
too,
that's
dude. Like
hard,
some of his
dude.
books are,
I like
yeah,
the guy, but gee whiz, I
he's
can
great.
hardly get through. Like it's like I got to read a couple pages at a time. But
Yeah, let's
yeah,
go back and read that again.
yeah,
Yeah,
because like I'm
100%.
just not that smart. I fell asleep in math
Sure.
class, woke up with a welding rod in my hand. You know, so it's just like I'm not that smart. But
Right.
yeah, I definitely attribute where I am now and the life that I'm living now a lot to the changes I made in my diet, and then, like I said, adding exercise on top of that. Um, they're just
Beautiful.
tools. Yeah, you're not gonna.
Yeah.
It's and the same things that allow you to be a skilled tradesperson, perseverance, discipline, integrity. Like integrity and being honest doesn't mean you never make a mistake. It's when you make a mistake you say, I dropped that off the scaffolding, I'm going to go down and pick it up and fix it and replace it, and then I'm going to come back up here and get back to work. Like that's
Yeah.
what integrity is. It's the same
Sure.
thing with your diet. Like it's not, oh, I never made a mistake. It's like, yep, it's not mistake bad. It's just made a choice to either not prepare, and so now I got to stop somewhere to get lunch, or I made
Yep.
a choice to eat this thing that I wanted to eat, and tomorrow I'm
Yep.
going to go back to the way I ought to be, the correct way, and I'm going to keep moving.
Yep.
Like
It's a process.
the same process for everything.
Yeah.
It seems like
Yeah.
so.
There's no end. There's no end to this, right? This is the one
So
of
it's
those,
not a
it's
diet. Is
it's a
that what you're
journey. Yeah. Yeah. There's no like, oh, I made it here. Like, no, you have to continue to make the decision every
saying? Hmm.
single day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you make the wrong decision, what does that mean? It's over? Like, did you
No.
lose? No,
No.
exactly.
No. Because there is no
Yeah.
lose, and like you're gonna you're you're going the right direction. Like if you, I think what I've come to the conclusion of, as far as specifically diet, if you are eating things that are occurring in nature for the most part with the least amount of processing, like
That's
like
simple.
I think we could have a great conversation about nightshades, because like those are some interesting things. And like broccoli, you said about broccoli isn't able to run away. Well, broccoli didn't exist. We made
Yes,
broccoli.
it was a mustard family. They
Like
all came from the
animal
same progenitor.
husbandry,
Yeah.
and the
You'd have
same thing that
never,
allowed, so like we
yeah.
created these, like onions didn't exist. They
No,
were
none of it
ramps,
did.
right?
Yes,
Like we
exactly.
developed these products, right? Cool. I don't even care about that. If you're
Sure.
eating a potato and with some onions in it, and a steak, or a
Yeah.
hamburger, just a patty,
Hell yeah.
bro, and some salt and pepper, you're going in the right direction.
You're
Like, you
good.
don't
You're
need to
miles
complicate it.
ahead.
Yeah, and
Right,
if you're
exactly.
not eating bags and bags of chips and drinking sodas, and you just decide, "I'm gonna drink water when from the time I wake up to the time I come home. I'm gonna drink coffee
And water.
and
Coffee and
and
water.
water for the rest of the day." You are like, just drinking water and stopping drinking every other calorie consuming calories through liquid, you are going to lose 15 pounds.
100%. Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
your joints are going to feel better. Is it because you lost 15 pounds or because now you have liquid, like actual water inside of you? I don't know, but you're going to feel better in 2 weeks,
Yeah. Hands
maybe
down,
less.
it's still better.
You're going to lose some weight. Your skin is going to be clearer. Your vision is going to be better. Like, there's just so many
Yeah.
benefits.
Right.
And then, hey, listen, you're out and you have a beer. Okay. You had a beer,
Hell
man.
yeah.
Don't
I
have
have a
37.
beer.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay. Just start making
100%.
those really simple turns. And eh, bro, if you're 80% better, that's awesome. You don't have to
Yep.
be optimal. Like, I
Yep.
get it gets so weird. Like, people get so stuck on like, well, I'm not eating grass fed,
Yeah.
organic,
Fuck all
ancestral,
that. Yeah.
regenerative, from Colorado, from this influencer that I saw on
Nobody
Instagram.
can
Like,
afford
I'm
that
like,
shit anyway.
bro,
Go to Walmart and buy
get
ground
a
beef.
chuck
Yeah.
roast and put it in your oven.
100%.
Get the
Yeah.
cheapest chuck roast you can find, you know, a,
People,
a,
people,
and just eat it. You're good.
yeah. They'll
You're good.
they'll they'll make that excuse like it's not grass fed, it's not regenerative, it's from Walmart even. This argument gets made a lot. Like people don't understand that 90% of cattle spend their entire lives on grass. They're
Hmm.
finished in a feedlot.
Yeah.
That food is still the best food for the human.
Hmm.
Like bring in those wholesome animal foods no matter where you get them from and you're
Yeah.
already doing better than frozen
Yeah.
pizza. Like how is there even an
Exactly.
argument,
Right.
like
You
stop
don't
trying
have to be
to
perfect.
don't let that stop you from changing
Hmm.
your life.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
we
Yep.
yeah. And
Yeah.
back to like what can you do? Like diet is the lever that you can pull. Like
Hmm.
all other things aside, that's the one thing you have control over.
Mm.
And once you can start to control that, you'll notice that other things are easier to control. Like you said, like
Yes.
mindset and just motivation, all of it. Like start with those wins. It's you make the decision every single day. Every day you
Yeah.
wake up, you get to decide what to eat. Start getting those easy wins, and then you'll
Yeah.
just start winning. You're
Yeah.
just gonna keep winning.
Yeah. It's
You're gonna feel better,
amazing
look
how
better.
it's amazing how your perspective can change when you wake up in the morning and you don't have a headache.
Right?
Like, just
You don't feel like
super
shit.
simple. Yeah,
Yeah,
you don't feel like, dude, I get it. I'm tired when I wake up, and I don't always want to wake up. But it's a lot
yeah,
easier for me to wake up when I know that I made a good decision last night. I have something in the refrigerator ready to go. Coffee pot was set on auto, so I wake
yeah.
up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I smell some coffee. I
Ooh,
I drink some water. Like, I put my coffee in a, like, this is just me. I don't think it matters, but like, I shoot, like, no matter what time I get up, I do not drink coffee until after 6 o'clock.
there's
It's
some
just
science behind
like,
that.
I
We don't
don't
have to
know if
go
it's
there,
good or
but
bad. It's just
that's gene.
for
That's the way we
me.
should all be. Yes.
Yeah, for
I,
me,
I,
I like
yeah.
I just like to I hate I like to raw dog my morning. Like, I wanna feel everything about the morning. And
Yeah.
again, that's like a little bit of my, like, spiritual side of, like, I like feeling the cold on my face, and I wanna feel the
Sure.
rain, and I don't
Yeah.
wanna have my air conditioned all the time. I
Do
wanna
hard
roll my
things.
window down. I wanna do the hard thing. And so, like, I
Hell yeah.
make a choice. Like, my first win of the d honestly, my first win of the day is I have no snooze button. My
Yeah.
first win of the day
You
is
just get
the
up.
alarm goes off at 4 o'clock in the morning, boom, I put my feet on the ground and I stand up. If I
Hell
lay
yeah.
in that bed for 10 minutes extra, I started on the wrong foot. And then my
Yeah.
next win is I said in my mind, I made the decision, I will not drink coffee until 6 o'clock. When 6
Yeah.
o'clock comes, Sometimes I'm like, I'm going to give it another 10 minutes because I don't need this. It doesn't own me.
Yeah,
It doesn't own
yeah,
me.
right.
So at 6:03 in my truck driving down Route 80, I start drinking my
And that
coffee.
coffee tastes so good at
Tastes great.
6:03. It probably
It's
tastes
awesome.
even better at
It does.
6:05,
But it's a
right?
win. I said I wasn't going to do it and I didn't do it. I said I
That's
was going to
amazing,
do it and I'm doing it now. Like I'm
right?
not compromising in the first 2 hours of my day,
Right.
and that leads to like, oh, what else am I not going to? I'm going to say I fill my truck up at the end of the on the way home. Oh, no, I'll get it in the morning. No, I won't
You
get it in
feel
the morning. I fill up my
yeah,
truck on the way home. That way, when I get up in the morning, what happens if there's too much snow? I'm 15 minutes late. I got to turn around because I forgot a tool. I can still get to the job site with fuel in my truck on time every time. Those little wins in the morning, drinking water, saying I'm going to
just
get up
stack
at
them
5,
up.
just stack, stack, stack. It's
Yeah,
so good.
it's
Um,
the best.
yeah,
It's the
it is.
best. I love
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
it
that
is.
coffee thing's huge, man. I'm really glad that you do that because there is actually science behind that. Your body
Really?
will metabolize that caffeine way better and you won't crash. It's your
Hmm.
adenosine receptors in that first 90 minutes. Just wait. Wait for the coffee. You'll
Really?
feel so much better. Yeah.
I just did
Check it
it
out.
because I wanted to be I don't know, just
Just
it
that's
one more
awesome.
little discipline.
So now
Um,
you have a secondary win behind
yeah,
that win.
yeah, yeah,
Like it's
rock and
better
roll.
for you
Yeah.
as well.
I'm trying my new not new, but like my next little like win, I guess you could say, or like decision is not looking at my phone until like I'd like to say until like 9 o'clock in the morning.
Ooh,
Like
that's
that's
tough.
my it's really tough. I mean, phones are like we could do 10 hours of talking about phones and screens, but like
Right.
there is something like there are oftentimes I have to look at it. Like my alarm is on it. I get text messages at 4:15. Hey, it snowed. Do we still got to go in? Hey, pick this up at the welding supply. Hey, we changed this and we're going here. Like I have to. There's certain things that just because of the nature of my business, I have to do. But
Yeah.
like my next like okay, I got to find a time where I don't look at it until this time, and I don't look at it after this time. And that's just really hard to do. It's like fully honest. I'm addicted to a phone as much as the next human being. Like
Fair.
it's perfectly designed to make us want to look at it. Just like Snickers and potato chips are perfectly designed to make us want to eat too much. And
Yes.
Doritos and Cheetos, like they're
Yeah.
orange for a reason. You know,
Right.
like
That
it's
color is very specific. Like
yeah,
where have we seen that before?
yeah,
Like
it's
it's
yeah.
playing on our biology.
Yeah, it really
Awesome,
is.
man.
So
Um,
what about the movement piece? So like okay, we make get some good solid wins, we pull the lever of our diet, we're making good choices there. Like how do we like what do we do with moving? Intentional exercise. How do we work
I
on
think
that?
that's going to be, yeah, that's going to be more specific towards the trade, in my opinion, because there are certain overuse injuries that could be mitigated based on what you're doing. So, first things first is like figure out what you're doing all the time, right? If you're bending over and lifting stuff up all the time, like there is a better way to do it. And that's the first piece of the movement. Figure out how you can move better with what you're doing. I used to push tons of screws over my head
Yeah.
like just drill at 90 degrees, just push, push, push. My
Yep.
shoulders are fucked, right? So, make an adjustment.
Yeah.
Get your get that elbow inside and push from your chest, right? Like it doesn't matter if you got to get higher up on the ladder. Stop doing those stupid overuse injury things
Mm,
first. Like that's a low hanging fruit. If it
mhm.
hurts, figure out a different way to do it. There
Right.
is a better way.
Right.
But the intentional movement outside of work, because we're blue collar, I harp less on it, but what I would want people to do is the compound lifts, right? I want you to back squat. I want you to overhead press. I want you to deadlift. Just
Hmm.
do those and do them at a capacity that you know won't injure you. And if you did that maybe 2 to 3 times a week, you're going to have a stiffer, midline. Your back's not going to hurt as bad. Like you will become stronger and stronger and stronger, or you'll just maintain. And if
Hmm.
you tie that with good diet, the inflammation is low, and you can be a 40-year-old that's getting better, getting
Yeah.
stronger, get a 50-year-old that's
That's
stronger than
me.
you were when you were 45, right? Like,
Yeah.
do the compound lifts because they're easy. Do, a set and rep range, probably like 4 sets of 5 to 8 reps at a decently heavy weight, 70%, and just do it consistently. And as it starts to get easier, add 5 pounds and do that on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like,
Hmm.
do a push and then a pull. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated. you
Right.
know I am extremely complicated. We'll do CrossFit 6 days a week and like just do all this crazy stuff and like go enter competitions just because we're masochists, but that's not necessary at all, right?
Right.
Like,
Right. Right.
you could even do the same movements with a set of dumbbells. Just
Mm.
make sure, like, there's the rate of perceived output. Like, do an RPE of 8. Like, do as many sets of that compound movement until you can only do 2 more and stop there, right? That's
Mm.
a good place to be. If people like don't know, they're totally confused about how much they should be lifting or how many sets and reps they should do, like, lift and move that weight until you're at the point where, yeah, I could do 2 more and then stop.
Hmm.
You'll prevent injury, you'll build strength, and just keep stacking weight onto that
Right.
number. And that's
Right.
all it really takes. Like, the goal is longevity, right?
Right.
We shouldn't be doing 1 rep maxes, period. Do them
Hmm.
once a year after you're super warmed up, if you like, but stay in that 80% range is
Right.
is probably my best advice for blue collar, for sure.
Right. Right.
First of all,
Yeah.
because if you're injured, you're fucked. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going
We
to
make
work.
our living with our
Yeah,
physical body. And if you blow your
100%.
back out at the gym because you're squatting or whatever, like whatever, I don't care why or how, boy, you're up the creek, man. Like there's no
Yeah,
other way to replace that income. Um,
yeah,
and so there's that.
big trouble.
You said something in there like you'll get injured less by doing some of these like squats or whatever. Like that's counterintuitive. Like a lot of guys I've talked to, or even myself, like as I was thinking about it, it's like, bro, it hurts so bad at work. Like what I do hurts. Like there's no
Yeah,
way around it, right? If I go and lift or go and work out in some meaningful, intentional way, it's going to make the work harder. But what that's not true, actually. Like
not necessarily.
stronger and you're going to perform
Right.
better at work.
Depends on, like, every depends on where you're at. Like, if you're super sore because you did a bunch of overhead stuff, don't do overhead stuff that week. But like, allow your body to tell you where you're at. Like, if you're well recovered, hit it hard. If you're
Mm,
not, just get some movement in. And the compound movement specifically, like, there's all types of tiny little muscles and your tendons and stuff that are getting stronger with that compound lift. It's
mm,
creating more stability in that structure, right?
mm.
It's
Yeah.
not, it's not reverse flies or you're just like isolating or doing curls or something, right? Like,
Right.
you're using most of your body on a back squat. Your shoulders will get sore.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's huge. I think that's huge. I remember working at a huge landscaping company quite a few years ago, and they had constant repetitive motion injuries from guys that I'm like, bro, you are not an old guy. You're a young guy. You're not even like big or like overweight. You're just not strong. And they would like twist and pull at the same time, like a tree with a big root ball. Like they'd grab the tree and then twist, turn, and pull it or lower it or lift wrong. And they just didn't have the strength, core strength, it seemed like, to hold their back together. And they would just be like, oh, I blew my back out. Work is so hard. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. It doesn't
Watched how
seem
you
like,
move that just now, you
yeah,
dummy.
like we have a tree cart. We could just put it on a tree cart
Yeah,
and
there's
roll it over
that.
there.
There's
You could
that.
do that. But like, but there's also this aspect of like, dude, I just saw that we are creeping up on in this country a 50% obesity rate. We're almost to the point where we're a majority obese nation.
It's
That is
insane.
insane. insane. But at the same time, we are producing more gold medal Olympic athletes than ever before. Like the strong are getting way stronger and faster, and the top 10% are going to far exceed, and the bottom 10% are going to far go down.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Like in this, we're the same country that has, TV shows about 600-pound life and 1,000-pound sisters, and we're also the strongest competitors in almost every
Right.
sport we compete in. Like women's soccer is winning like crazy. All women, all American, are winning like crazy. Like, that's so interesting. How are we both at the same time? And in the trades, like being stronger is never going to be worse for you.
Yeah.
It's not going to make
Never.
it worse for you. Um,
No.
and it's not going to be technology that propels success. Now, we're going to need to use technology, don't get me wrong, but merely having the right technology is not going to be the most the driver of success. It's going to be people. People are the scarce resource that we have now, and one of those scarce resources of people are strong, capable, thoughtful people.
Yeah.
They're a scarce resource.
Yeah.
Remaining physically capable well into your 50s is 100% possible. Well into
100%.
your 60s. It's not just possible, it's actually should be normal.
It was the norm.
Yeah,
Yes.
like absolutely normal is what that should be. It should not be abnormal, but it
Right.
is. Like
Yeah.
it is now currently abnormal. And so I'm stoked that you are kind of sounding the gong on this and saying like, "Hey guys, we need to move. We
Yeah.
need to eat like human beings."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
We're
so important.
yeah, and we're there. I haven't been doing a good enough job of sounding the gong, but I really, it's time. I've developed enough in my life to where like it's time to just get it done. And then thankfully at the same time there's this whole Maha movement where now there's a magnifying glass, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
hate or love or it doesn't matter your political affiliation. You are seeing people in the mainstream talk about correct diet, seed oils,
Yeah.
toxins. Like this is
Hmm.
wild. We're at a
Yeah.
precipice. Take advantage of it or get left behind, like for
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Yeah.
happen one way or
It
another.
really is. I mean, it's wild. Like America used to set a standard in food safety and food health. Like we were the breadbasket, and I mean, we still produce a ton of food. Don't get me wrong, but like other countries, you would go there and be like, "Oh, don't eat that at that in that country. Like that's bad." Like I remember going to Cambodia, and like they were like, "Do not eat rice noodles." What do you mean, don't eat rice noodles? They're like, because they used heavy metals to bind the rice to make it a noodle. Like it was a
Dang.
like they were like, do not eat that here, those sort of things. Now it's like, dude, don't eat American food because
Yeah.
kill you.
Right.
You look at the ingredient list and it's like, what is this stuff that's in here? And I don't know, man. It's just sad that we've fallen off this uh just fallen off to like where ooh, you got kids over there.
Yeah. Sorry if you can hear
Oh,
that.
it's all right.
They're
No
awake.
worries. I
It's
like it.
it's
It's
dinner time
great.
soon.
Yeah, it's great. It's
So
great. It's real life. Imagine that. But like, yeah, we've gotten to the point where like, I had a friend of mine. She has a gluten insensitivity or sensitivity. Sorry, and she went to Italy for 2 weeks. And she came back. She's like, I ate so much bread, and I feel great. And I'm like, yeah, that's because you're not eating American white bread. It's made with real grains that are actually grown properly without the use of all these chemicals and then produced like it's one loaf at a time in a little bakery in a little town with fresh water. Of course, you feel great.
what?
Yeah.
Yes, that's how bread is made, everybody. Like that's real bread.
Yeah.
You'd be
Right.
surprised at how you feel when you eat bread like that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, That's wild. Yeah, I hear that anecdote a lot. Like, I went to Europe and I feel so much better. I eat this. I eat more food. It's
Hmm.
like, yeah, because we're eating garbage here.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say about food, and we'll kind of move on or get done here, but is something I've found has been like a benefit to me is not just looking at what I'm eating, but where it's from. And I don't mean like, is this from Nabisco or whatever? I mean like literally, where did this piece of food come from in the world? Um, the closer I can get that food to me, like the less it has to travel to me, the better off I am. And so like currently, like all like I buy beef from a local farmer. Shout out to Matt Coral. Um,
Yeah, Matt.
he's the man. The best cattleman in Pennsylvania, if you ask me. He does a great job. He full time farmer, third generation, young guy. Um, and so my all the meat in my freezer came from either the woods, like from deer hunters, or from Matt, like 30 minutes away. Like all the
That's
vegetables
awesome.
in my pantry are canned. They're from our garden. You know,
Yeah.
we just started eating grapefruit. Like we just got grapefruit. Why? Because grapefruit just started coming into season. So we don't eat grapefruit in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
Like we eat seasonally and we eat
Yeah.
as local as possible. Like
For
that's
sure. There's a
something
lot to be
I
said
really
about seasoning. Yeah.
um
For sure. Like our bodies, there are studies like your body will digest carbohydrate better when you have a different circadian rhythm based on the
mm,
sun. Like there's a seasonal aspect for sure.
yeah.
And I that's another step, especially like Primal Blueprint, Mark Sisson, he said like eat local over organic. Like
Interesting.
it's gonna keep you
I like
eating the
that.
things that are available. Yeah.
Yeah, I like
It's
that.
right. Like
A
eat
lot of it's convenience though. People are just so addicted to convenience that like I want this food and it's available. It's always available in the store. It comes out of this bag. I can eat chicken nuggets every weekend, every day. Like there's always frozen chicken nuggets. Um, there isn't always chicken. Like chicken has to grow. Meat has like I can't just go and get a steak all the time unless I purchase half a cow and put it in a freezer. And that means like, is that expensive? Depends. Depends because I don't buy meat the whole rest of the year. It it's
it ends up being like $7 a pound, right? Like
yeah,
that's a lot cheaper than that
yeah.
$15 pound ribeye.
Yeah, I definitely did the math on our last meat order, and it's significantly less expensive by the pound buying large quantities from a local farmer. It may feel like a big expense, but you then have to. It's a planning situation. You have to say, okay, I'm going to buy a cow now and I'm not buying this other stuff later. I'm not running to the grocery store or to the corner to just get something simple and easy for dinner. I'm going to put a pound of ground meat out in the morning, and when I come home or my wife can cook it or whatever, however you want to think about it, I got to thaw out a steak. If I want to eat, that's what I got to do. I'm not spending more money,
Yeah.
double the money. So,
Right.
yeah, it's a
And the
planning
time.
problem.
Time costs. There's a time
Yeah,
aspect to that too. Like it's money.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
All right,
Absolutely,
man.
man.
I I mean, you got any last licks? Anything else you want to talk about real quick? It doesn't even have to be quick.
Um, I think we covered a lot, and it's really awesome. And I love talking with you, and I'd love to do it again. But
Sure.
like, yeah, the whole what I just want people to remember from this conversation is that diet is that lever, and it's the lowest hanging fruit, and it's a decision that you just make every day. And
Mm,
like you said, just starting to eat whole foods, like screw the meal prep idea I had. If you could literally just transition to eating the foods that you like that didn't come out of a package, like whatever
mm,
that means to you, that's step one. If you still notice you're having digestive issues or some inflammation, like yeah, then you can dig a little bit deeper, start to figure out what it is that's making you feel not so great. But you're going to immediately see a change just by like eating real food.
yeah. Amen, man.
Right.
I agree. I agree. I agree 100%. You're going to see a huge change. And so, yeah, man. Thanks you so much for hanging out for a couple hours and chatting about this stuff. Is cool to hear about where you're from, like how you got through this world, how the trades impacted your life, some of your lessons that you learned. It's awesome to talk about this food stuff. Um, I think it's a conversation. I think there's two conversations that the trades need to have that are not being had. One, we got to move and we got to eat right. And number two, people are messed up and there's a huge mental health crisis. I think they're linked. I think what we eat and how we work and move impacts how we feel and our minds. Um,
100%.
yeah, like they're inexorably linked. What you are putting in your
Absolutely.
guts is affecting your brain, right? And so
100%.
no one in our community and our culture is having these conversations, and so it's awesome that we get to have it together. Um, yeah, I look forward to continuing down this road with you. Um, and yeah, with that, that's a wrap. Thank you for anybody who's listening. You get this far. As you know, I'm bad at promoting. We don't promote anything on this show. There's no advertising. There's none of that junk. Just the truth. We have real conversations with real people. And if you want to support, you can share it. You can send it to somebody and say, "Hey, this is a podcast that doesn't suck." And if you don't want to support, that's cool. We'll keep doing it. I'm going to keep having these conversations with people. Um, just going to keep having these conversations. So, thank you.
Uh, Appreciate you, Daniel. See ya.